Sure.
The chair lays out Senate Bill 3 and recognizes its author, Senator Perry, to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Senate Bill 3 is banning products that contain THC. In 2019, the legislature passed HB 1325 in response to a federal legalization of the hemp plant. The bill was intended to support farmers and to promote an industrial hemp market that was designed to encourage the development of non-consumable hemp products like fiber. However, after HB 1325 became law, companies began to blatantly exploit and violate Texas law by selling products that far exceeded the THC limitations imposed by the definition of hemp. Illegally high-potency synthetic THC products have flooded the marketplace, reaching kids, adults, and transforming generations to addiction and problems that parents wouldn't even have known about or could not have been available if not for these products. To be clear, most of these products are synthetically created. The ingredients do not occur naturally in the hemp plant. They're only created by men in laboratories. Synthetic products are substantially more potent than illegal marijuana on the street and are readily available at many gas stations and retail establishments, hemp shops, head shops across the state. SB 3 bans the sale of all consumable hemp products that contain THC. The only consumable hemp product that will remain legal under this bill are products that only contain CBD and CBG. Additionally, any product that remains legal under this bill will have to be properly labeled and placed in child-resistant packaging as well as registered with dishes. Mr. Chairman, I do have committee sub.
The chair sends up the committee's substitute, Senate Bill 3, and recognizes Senator Perry to explain the difference.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee substitute makes the following changes. It defines minor to be a person under 21, adds a $10,000 annual manufacturer licensing fee, adds a $20,000 annual retailer fee, clarify that both hemp ingredients and consumable hemp products must be tested prior to the sale, requires retailers to provide written consent to allow dishes or law enforcement to enter a retail store for inspections, creates a Class A misdemeanor for having misleading packaging that makes a person believe the product is intended for medical use, increases the penalty for the sale of the product or of a minor under 21 to a Class A misdemeanor, creates a felony of third degree for intentionally creating a false lab report. Members, we're here today because the industry in 2019, as unfortunately predictable and foretold, was told not to exploit the hemp plant, what was intended for agricultural purposes, to create a fiber market that actually would probably be a large producer of fiber to alleviate some of the cost and supply chains that are increasing our housing costs today, that is now, for all practical purposes, defunct. The industry got caught up in this conversation with THC-laced products to be sold as consumables, and that industry, the agriculture industry as it was targeted to, is really never gotten off the ground because of this particular issue. So it not only provides addiction problems, no quality control products, so you never know what you're getting from the shelf, to youth and others for generationally changing their family dynamics. It ruined a really good opportunity for agriculture that's always looking for a way to reinvent itself to stay viable in a market. It ruined that market also. So with that, I'll take questions from members.
Thank you, Senator Perry. Senator Birdwell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Perry, for your work on this. This is a difficult challenge. So the challenge that I face, the merits of the bill are not in question for me. But this committee in 2019, when Senator Huffman was the chair, Senator Hughes was the vice chair, we had a bill related to the smoking age being raised from 18 to 21. Your bill specifies 21, that anybody under 21 is treated as a minor. And that places me in the dilemma You know, as both professing, believing Christians, you know, Paul in 1 Corinthians talks about putting away the things of my childhood, which infers that there's an age of reason that says I'm now an adult as opposed to a child. And in fact, many of the individuals that we see here to testify for public testimony that are wearing the cap of either the American Legion, the VFW, those are individuals that at 18 were able to raise their right hand, support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Why does your bill contemplate 21 as opposed to 18 to use the products that, and I'm going to pronounce them wrong, but cannabidiol and cannabigerol? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing them correctly.
I appreciate that.
But if the bill is passed, and those products of the terms I just used are legal, why would somebody 18, 19, or 20 not be able to use those products?
Yeah, and I think we always have this 18-year-old debate issue. When do you become an adult? We have it 17 in prison systems. That debate is 17 or 18. We have it with respect to Second Amendment rights. So the bill's not intended to solve that question today, but in being consistent with some of the delivery metrics that have been employed in some of these products, i.e. smokables, being consistent in some of the medical research behind that and where cancer and other things were done. I think that's just kind of a logical connection from 18 to 21 on this subject matter. I'm not suggesting to you that it's just to try to provide consistency, I guess, but we have inconsistent other examples, right? I will say, I have not verified it, but I do believe that the military has a prohibition against these type products to begin with, just a blanket prohibition to start with. And I couldn't get into the chemistry of exactly what those are, but some of the products that are currently being retailed are prohibited at the military level already. So taking that argument aside, there's overall an umbrella of many of these products that people are buying at retail shops. They shouldn't be if they're in accordance with the military rules of the day, if you will. But 18 to 21, I think, is more of look at it from a tobacco smoking pursuit. So it fits in that world pretty well. I think we could argue there's a lot of people that don't think well at 21 even, but that's not the question of the day. I think the consistent was tying it back to some of the smokables that were out on the markets.
Okay. It wasn't. My question's not themed to the smokable. I would certainly agree with the current military policy is presuming that everything you've spoken about is that what our armed forces are doing right now. Again, we've had a change in leadership. I don't know if that's changed those policies. These kind of businesses are not a place I will frequent. What I'm trying to be consistent with is the spirit of once you're an adult, you're an adult. I mean, our alcohol beverage laws weren't because we said we should change that. It was because the federal government said if you want to keep your highway funds, we want to impose federal policy preferences on the state of Texas. We've just recently had the court decision about a year ago, and I think the state, as it relates to Second Amendment and handguns as opposed to long guns, I guess what I'm trying to draw to is there a reason the cannabidiol and the cannabigerol should be not used by 18, 19, 20-year-old? Is there something about the development of the brain? Is there something that's a medical reason for that, as opposed to simply saying the age of majority is 18, and we're trying to be consistent across?
Yeah, I think it's multifaceted. I'm not a doctor for sure. There'll be a medical professional up there that you could ask that question specifically. I would just liken it to there are obviously some attributes that people find relief from. from CBD and CBG. After this bill's legal, those should be still available. Those effects, if you will, are for people that are desiring relief, right? We already have things that can't be done till you're 21 in that arena. There are certain things that kids shouldn't be taking, even if they do provide relief without parental oversight, if you will. So in the big sphere of how it fits into that, I think the fact that we're recognizing there possibly is benefit from those two particular cannabinoids, that they do have some benefit, but they still have some altering effect that possibly it fits in that well between 18 to 21 rule. Because if someone is seeking relief in this regard, be it joint or otherwise, I would want a parent to be involved or someone old enough to understand in that conversation, right? Because obviously they're trying to fix a symptom of a pain-related matter that an 18-year-old may not have the same oversight, if you will. You know, even though they're 18, they're still around their parents usually, right? 21, you're typically hopefully out the house. But I can't give you an exact example exactly why it fits, other than it's consistent with tobacco laws. Military's not supposed to be taking these substances in the impact of leaving two cannabinoids on the shelf that do have some altering effect by virtue of the way the makeup of the plant delivers that. It probably is an altering substance that would justify a 21-year-old conversation versus an 18. But you can ask that to the doctors that will show up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your work. I'm not going to let perfect be the enemy of good.
Sure.
I'm just, you know, in all my years in service that, well, soldiers were subordinate, you know, they're also adult before the law as well. And so that's why I'm trying to.
Right.
I'm
I'm
trying to be consistent in my view, recognizing, and I won't let perfect be the enemy of good. So
And I
look forward to
appreciate it.
discussion. Thank
I
you for your-
respect every opinion on any of these subject matters. I'm sad that we're here today because it did destroy an agriculture
Oh
opportunity.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm sad that we're here today for all the people that have participated in this stuff, not knowing exactly what the quality was that has now created a real harm, if not death in some cases. So
Absolutely.
that's where we're at.
Your assessment. So, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Dean Saffarini, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Perry, I heard from some constituents who support your bill strongly, the intent of the bill, the specific provisions such as those that regard the packaging, but they have some concerns that the stringent regulations in the bill would have a negative impact on the producers and the people who are selling and producing non-intoxicating hemp products. Would you be willing to sit down and work with them to ensure that you can address their concerns and perhaps work something out?
I'll always be able to sit down and have a conversation. I can't commit to making changes. The reason we're here today is because an industry that has shown not trustworthy exploited this particular issue to the point that it has endangered public health. So from a credibility perspective, the current industry providers, and there are several that are controller of this industry, have shown not to be trustworthy. And now what they're all screaming about is, we want regulation, but we want it the way we want it. Secondly, they're all screaming about, we'll not market it to kids. Well, that cow's done got out. It's the Joe Camel program from the tobacco industry. And once they got all the kids addicted, they started pulling back because they got pushback. So we've had, this is a retread. This industry's in a retread mode. I guess they think memories are short. You're old enough to remember those advertisements. You've seen them all in the head shops. So from that perspective, there's two products that this bill will leave on the shelves, and they will have to be registered, and they will have to be licensed, and they will have to be subject to search. And penalties have to be. You know, I've quoted a number many times. I haven't, but the industry, $8 billion industry in Texas. Well, if they're making $8 billion in sales, then they can afford to be licensed and have manufacturing fees to support some of the enforcement side of this conversation that we're not currently doing. So I will be willing to listen. I will not commit to making changes to anything in this bill today without a substantive reason why it doesn't make sense. But I think that what we're seeing is we've got to get the genie back in the bottle.
Thank you. Well, I will tell them that. They may be listening now anyway.
I'm sure they
But
are.
your purpose is not to do away with non-intoxicating hemp products, is it?
CBD and CBG will be legal because those are cannabinoids through the chemistry of the plants that develop something that has some medicinal benefit to people that believe that it helps them in that relief. That will still be on the shelf.
Okay.
It has virtually no THC in it at all.
And just speaking for constituents, they are concerned about the stringent regulations that might have perhaps a non-intended consequence, but I'll ask them to contact you or your staff.
You'd be glad to ask them to contact. They're faced with, here's where the industry is. At its inception, CBD and CBG were the intended product, the ones that were not intoxicating, one that didn't have a high value THC content. That's what people were using when you see Hempvana commercials or whatever they were. That's where you heard people that would take a gummy to sleep better. Those were the original CBD, CBGs. What happened is they took that and synthetically altered the deltas underneath. There's multiple delta components, and exploited that to where you've got extremely high THC content. So it will put them back to the original intent of CBD, CBG, pretty much zero THC content for all detectable purposes that can still be sold. Here's the problem. If they're really honest with you, most of them will tell you that without THC-laced products, they can't be profitable. And so the gig's up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dean Zaffarani. Members, any other questions for the author before we open testimony? Very well, we'll begin invited testimony on Senate Bill 3, and the chair calls Major Mark Melson, Brady Mills, Timothy Stevenson. We're looking for Major Melson, Brady Mills, and Timothy Stevenson, Department of State Health Services. Invited.
Huh? No, they're all good.
And thank you each for being here. We'll just begin on my left, your right. Introduce yourself, tell us who you represent, and give us your testimony. We'll have questions for you all at the end.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Senators. I'm Dr. Tim Stevenson, Department of State Health Services, Consumer Protection Division. And on the bill, our group is responsible for the licensing of the manufacturers and the retail shops that sell the hemp products. As the author laid out, this started as a farm bill and federal farm bill, allowing products from the cannabis plant up to 0.3 Delta 9 THC. We maintain that one can't synthesize other THCs such as Delta 8 and add it back into the hemp product. However, the courts in Texas have enjoined us from enforcing that perspective during ongoing litigation. Regarding smokable products, the current statute does not allow the manufacturing or processing of hemp for smoking, but the Texas Supreme Court has ruled that retailers may still sell the smokable products. So that's where we are on a regulatory front. At this time, there are many products consumable hemp products containing numerous THC, tetrahydrocannabinols, THCs, including smokable products. There are currently approximately 744 licensed manufacturers and 5,043 retail registrants with over 8,300 locations in the state. The file bill will not allow other cannabinoids such as synthetic THCs, but would allow cannabidiol, CBD, and cannabigerol, CBG, which do not have psychoactive properties. I believe I'll stop there, waiting and subject to any of your questions, please.
Thanks for your testimony. Welcome, introduce yourself, go ahead.
Hello, Chairman, thank you. Thank you to the members. My name is Mark Nelson. I'm with the Texas Department of Public Safety, Criminal Investigations Division. I don't have a prepared testimony today, but I will be here as a resource witness for the impacts to law enforcement.
Thank you, Major. Mr. Mills, introduce yourself, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Brady Mills. I'm the Chief of the Crime Laboratory Division for the Texas Department of Public Safety. We're about 700 forensic scientists across the state with 16 locations to support law enforcement and the criminal justice system across the state, and I'm on the bill. I'd like to thank the Lieutenant Governor, Senator Perry, and their staff for their tireless effort on this topic. Testing of marijuana and hemp materials has been a challenge for forensic laboratories since the original bill was passed. And that is, we had to segue into doing quantitative analysis for Delta-9 THC. DPS has reviewed the bill and believes from a laboratory perspective that the bill would streamline the forensic analysis of evidence in our crime laboratories. Senate Bill 3 supports the DPS mission of protecting and serving Texas by giving clarity to the regulatory environment in the consumable hemp products. It will allow us in the laboratory to move back to an analytical testing methods that we used in the past to just identify the presence of THC. Just as an example, in the last 2 years, we've tested about 17,000 vape cases that were submitted to our laboratories. And these cases will take anywhere between 2 to 4 times longer than a standard case. With passage of this bill, we would be able to revert back to the old methodology where this will be just a case. With that, I'd be happy to address any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Senator Perry, the panel is yours.
Yeah, to dishes specifically, the courts are still working on some of these issues, but when Senate Bill 3 is passed, there is significant enforcement operations for you guys as well as DPS. You've given us a kind of an estimate. I think I put it in the rider for some LAR support for that enforcement. You will have, the question is, will you have the manpower to enforce as well as DPS and law enforcement these licenses and registrations and product inspections?
If the rider were to pass, we have seen some language around a rider that would give more resources to that, and we believe we could enforce a frequency of inspection more closely to around 1 year time period, maybe less depending on the number of registrants that there are. Right now, we're not at where our frequency is over 5 years.
Okay. Is it, you may not be able to answer this, how many licenses are currently in Texas?
Yes, sir.
You said it there at the first.
5,043 retail registrants, and they can have multiple locations, so 8,300 locations now, retail sales.
I've heard estimates that triple that number as far as operators that are not registration. Do you have anything that would support that?
I don't have any data on that, sir.
That's fine. On the DPS side, and y'all are going to hang around for the teacup bill also, correct, 1505?
Yes, sir.
Because I do have some questions there. It's almost unenforceable today by the way the market has put these synthetically made products on the street, correct?
The biggest challenge is the discussion about THC-A or THC Delta-8. And so the question about the legality of those are cleaned up with this legislation.
So THA, for those that don't know, if you were to go get a bag of THA, it's just a regular pot bag. It's what it looks like, right?
Yes, sir.
It's like the old style bag. Is the marijuana coming through the synthetically created ones hotter or more intense in THC content than the previous used to be homegrown varieties of the, when I grew up in the 70s and 80s?
Looking at the data that we get back in our laboratories and then also laboratories that are testing some of the edible components, the concentration of THC is higher.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Perry. Dean Zaffarini, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You heard, I hope, my question to Senator Perry earlier. And being familiar with the bill, do you have any suggestions regarding how we could tweak the regulations so they would not hurt those who are producing non-intoxicating hemp products, but who also support the bill, except that they're worried their businesses will be truly bankrupt because the regulations will cause their products to be so high?
As stated, the CBD and the CBG would be allowed in this bill. The other synthetics, synthetics couldn't be added in, and other derivatives that might be in the plant, THC, could not be allowed in this.
Let me ask another question instead. I withdraw that question, at least temporarily. Would you look at the regulations in the bill and help determine if there are any ways they could be tweaked so that they would not hurt the businesses that are selling non-intoxicating hemp products?
Yes, we would.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dean. Members, any other questions? Senator Middleton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Brady, thank you for being here today. We've worked together on some of these issues that we've seen in vapes in our public schools. So could you maybe, if you have the data, it's a question here, but if you don't, maybe get it to me. What have you seen in the past few years as far as these 17,000 testing cases that you've had come through your crime lab on the increase from our public school system? I don't know if you have a way to isolate that for children that are not, in the ISD system. Overall, what have you seen on under 18, these being submitted by, the sheriff's departments or city PD or ISD police or district attorney, or what's kind of the trend that you've seen in the past few years on that?
So I don't have the data in front of me. We can certainly provide that. But we have seen the ISD PDs submitting these types of cases. And there was always some submissions from those law enforcement entities, but there has been an increase based on the vape evidence type.
Right. I mean, because that's a problem we've had in nearly every school district in my district. I know Alvin, that's one of the first times I called you about that. And it's getting out of hand. And the vape detection equipment in the restrooms is always being triggered. That's very expensive. Not every district has it. So this is something that has been a huge tax on law enforcement. And obviously, you're testing the percentages, right, on those liquids that they take, which is, obviously expensive to do.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The requirement of having us do the quantitation test is what is impacting the laboratories. Moving that back to a presence of or a qualitative test for THC it reverts us back to how we used to test for these types of evidence, which is going to allow us to be more effective to support law enforcement.
And that was how we test for alcohol in school too, right? Or if you're just a simple test, whether or not there's alcohol present in something.
Yes, sir. We quantitate for like driving under the influence, but if you go back into the kind of controlled substance world, yes, we usually just identify the presence of a controlled substance, and that's what this bill would allow us to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And if I can ask a question, and Dr. Stevenson, Major Melson, Chief Mills, thank you for being here and your work on this. And I'll pose a question to the panel and to the author. The bill, once the bill passes, what would enforcement look like? The responsibility for the Department of State Health Services and Department of Public Safety. And anybody can take a stab at that, please.
Yes, sir. So the licensing and manufacturers, registration of registrants, retail sales should remain as it is in the sense of that application and approval. The inspections would, in many respects, we would still be looking at CBD, in this case CBG allowed, but the other cannabinoids would not be allowed. Manufacturers are currently required to test for the presence of Delta-9 THC. And with the current statute and regulation being enjoined in the litigation, the other THCs are not regulated right now. We don't typically test for those because we don't have a statutory authority to enforce. So if this bill were to pass as is, those other THCs would not be allowed, and they would be screened through the manufacturer would provide testing and data on that, and then we could verify that through our laboratory testing.
Thank you. Anything else from DPS on that, please? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. From the perspective of law enforcement, since the passing of the first bill, it's been a great challenge to the fact that we play a dual role. One is to protect the citizens of Texas, and number two is to enforce the laws of Texas. And what has happened since the beginning of the law, the hemp law, and then especially most recently with the synthesized elements of the hemp, is that there is great confusion on what is legal and what is illegal, especially from the side of the road perspective. So if we were to protect the legal property of a citizen, or if we were to enforce the law on the side of the road, you have to know what that substance is, whether it be a user amount, whether it be a small amount of consumable, or whether it be an 18-wheeler load. There are currently no roadside presumptive tests that are recognized by our DPS lab as sufficient to be able to tell anything more than the presence of. In other words, there's a qualitative analysis that can be done, but we have to, the police officers have to make a decision on the side of the road at that time to either seize the substance if they can't prove what it is, send it to the lab. If it ended up to be a legal substance, then that substance is potentially destroyed, and that's going to come with civil liabilities when an officer was just simply trying to do the best job that they could, not being able to conduct a sufficient test. So there are sufficient roadside presumptive tests that are recognized to be able to test whether there is or whether there isn't the presence of THC.
THC, go ahead.
So that at that point, the substance could be seized and sent to the lab as appropriate.
So as a practical matter then, and I recognize that you're not for the bill or against the bill, you're on the bill, we appreciate that, but I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. This bill passes and our officers on the side of the road would have clarity, they'd know what the rules are and how to interact with citizens, and so the motoring public and as well as officers would have clarity on the law if this bill were to pass?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would also add is that when we talked about vape pens and we talked about plant material, those are things that we're testing for the quantity of THC, so we are supporting law enforcement in those efforts, but we are not supporting local law enforcement in the efforts of edibles. We do not have an extraction procedure for edibles, so if this changes back to the presence of THC, then we could then again support local law enforcement in their efforts and enforcement.
So the resources of DPS and the whole crime lab system would be available to help if this were to become law?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator, is there any other questions for this bill?
No, a couple of things to remind folks. First of all, states have legalized marijuana, but the federal government still does not recognize it as a legal substance. Secondly, the federal government, when it did the Farm Bill, regulated hemp plant, specifically a Delta 9 variety, and it limited it to certain THC limits. But federal law under the Farm Act was for hemp plants. The feds left the regulation of products up to the states. And several states have banned synthetic consumables under the hemp tax. So we're not the first. We tried to let the industry regulate itself. They've proved they can't. They don't want to and won't. And like I say, it's time to fix it. But California banned synthetics, hemp on this stuff. And others have, a couple of others have done the same thing. So it's just time for Texas to follow suit. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We thank each witness. We'll have you back shortly on the related bill on the compassionate use program, I believe. So for now, you're excused. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As we continue invited testimony on Senate Bill 3, the chair calls Chief Steve Dye, Sergeant Justin Arsenault, Sheriff Brian Hawthorne, Dr. Lindy McGee. Again, we're looking for Chief Steve Dye, Sergeant Justin Arsenault, Sheriff Brian Hawthorne, Dr. Lindy McGee. Thank you each for being here. We're going to start here. If you'll go ahead and get started, we'll come back to Dr. McGee when she gets situated. So please introduce yourself. Give us your testimony.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Chairman Hughes, Vice Chair Paxton, committee members. My name is Steve Dye, and I'm the Chief of Police in Allen and also lead the Texas Police Chiefs Association's efforts regarding consumable hemp products. I'm testifying today in support of Senate Bill 3. I'm here to express the serious concerns of police professionals across the state of Texas regarding the illegal and open sale of consumable hemp THC products. This blatant abuse and circumvention of the 2018 federal farm bill, which legalized hemp, and the 2019 legislation, which authorized the creation of an industrial hemp market, have resulted in a massive synthetic industry selling illegal THC and other psychoactive substances that pose significant health risk to our communities. Consumable THC products currently being sold in retail stores throughout the state are more potent than ever. In fact, recent undercover operations in Allen found THC concentration in consumables that tested up to 78%. As law enforcement professionals, our concerns include THC consumables are significantly more potent than ever before. Naturally grown marijuana from the past had a THC concentration of less than 5%. The circumvention of Texas law has led to the outright sale of these illegal products under the guise that these substances are legal hemp imported from other states. Disregarding state law, companies are chemically modifying industrial hemp to create synthetic THC cannabinoid variants that are sold over the counter. Labels on many products do not reflect the actual level of THC inside the packaging, which is leading to accidental intoxications, overdoses, and increased addiction for these psychoactive products, particularly to our youth. Products containing synthetic THC variants are incorrectly tested and intentionally mislabeled by out-of-state laboratories over which Texas law enforcement has zero oversight and enforcement. We have found these retailers' certificates of authenticity are either non-existent or do not match the actual THC concentration in the products. Consumers have no idea what they're ingesting in these synthetic hemp products. THC consumables are being infused into normal-looking foods with packaging and sugary flavors often targeted to youth consumers. Easily accessible high THC cannabis products pose significant health risks to adolescents, including evidence that heavy and early use is associated with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, lower IQ in adulthood, changes in brain structure, and increased risk of psychotic symptoms. A recent study conducted by the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston found that 55% of Texans support a ban on these THC consumables, and in my community, I can tell you that number is much higher. More and more THC overdoses are occurring in our county jails and hospitals. We all remember the K2 spice bath salts crisis in which we were quickly able to eradicate the retail market due to numerous deaths. These high THC consumables are no different other than they are causing slower, less conspicuous deaths and disabilities. Currently, testing is required on every THC consumable seized by law enforcement. Police departments can't afford the testing, and these retailers know it. In addition, many district attorneys across the state won't prosecute these cases due to ambiguity in the law or for political reasons. This plague needs to be addressed at the local level, as it is a prolific problem in every city and every town, and state agencies will never have the resources to regulate or properly address. Local law enforcement needs a definitive statute that allows our departments to make arrests and seizures without the need to test products. Testing should always be the responsibility of the seller. Momentarily, you will hear from Allen PD Narcotics Sergeant Justin Arsenault regarding the facts discovered at some of the retail shops in Allen, which is indicative of the crisis in communities across Texas. He will point out that we have objective investigative proof that these shops know exactly what they're selling is above 0.3% THC concentration, as well as validating my other comments. I provided handouts to you of a letter signed by the Texas Police Chiefs Association, the Sheriff's Association of Texas, the Texas School District Police Chiefs Association, TMPA, and CLEAT, with all groups unified in support of Senate Bill 3. I have also provided you with the factual information regarding the seriousness of consumable products, as well as photos from our stores in Allen, showing how these products are marketed as candy, chips, and cookies, a photo of how labels are covered up by wholesalers and retailers to disguise the actual content in the packaging, and a sales goal from one store demonstrating the vast revenue being generated by these illegal products. We need your help in protecting our communities and urge you to support Senate Bill 3. However, we believe more elements need to be added to this bill to ensure that it is both enforceable and prosecutable. I will be glad to go into more detail. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Chief. We'll have questions at the end for everybody, so we want to make sure we get all that. Thank you for your testimony. Sergeant, introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, Chair Hughes, Vice Chair Paxton, and esteemed members of this committee. My name is Justin Arsenault, and I am Sergeant at the Allen Police Department. I have the privilege of leading the narcotics unit there, and I thank you for your time today. I'm here today to advocate for the support of Senate Bill 3. Every year, thousands of students across the state interact with law enforcement over THC products in the schools, and Allen is no different. Allen is a 27 square mile bedroom community and home of over 24 CBD shops in our town. Over the last few years, my team and I have noticed a difference in street-level dealers related to THC products. We've seen a shift of street-level dealers no longer selling these products, and we believe we found the reason why. Approximately 2.5 years ago, we began noticing an increase of contacts in our school district related to these products, which brought about parent concerns, and rightfully so. The team began receiving complaints of local CBD shops selling THC products to these children. At this point in this adventure, which I'm going to explain to you today, the team needed 3 things to succeed. 1, the support of our police chief. Allen is blessed with a chief that made this issue a department priority. He knows that high levels of THC concentration has a lasting negative effect on the youth and believes our entire department is problem solvers focused on quality of life issues in our city. 2, we need the support of our city leadership. This process we were going to undertake was not cheap, nor was it going to be quiet, but the youth of Texas was worth it. We need the support of our district attorney's office. Their guidance through the process would be invaluable for prosecution if needed. So early on, the team not only collaborated with those 3 partners, but we also collaborated with the local sheriff's office and the Drug Enforcement Administration. We knew the ending of this process would be a disagreement between labs and experts. The team found the following. We focused our efforts on stores that had bright displays of marijuana and hemp leaves in the window and packaging to draw the eye of children. We also focused on stores that had a steady flow of school-age individuals entering the store. Those requirements had the team focus on 11 of the 24 stores. We made multiple undercover purchases and tested over 83 products with 43 manufacturers. The items that we tested were random and different types. The percentage of Delta-9 THC found in these products were as high as 78%. Of the 83 products, 74 tested over the legal limit here in the state of Texas. Speaking with our DEA certified lab chemist, regardless of the type of testing that we conducted, the ending would be the same. We found multiple packagings at the store geared towards youth sales. These items were labeled identical to the packaging of Chips Ahoy cookies, but called Trips Ahoy, Chester's Flaming Hot Cheetos, Skittles, Stony Patch, identical to the Sour Patch Kids packaging, and Ruffles. All packaging was brightly colored, and there's currently no age limit to purchase. Though the packaging of this product showed to be under the limit of 0.3%, store clerks and owners told a different story. Statements from them like, "This will keep you high for hours," "The product will test around 30%, and we've been slowly introducing our products back into the store not to draw attention because of all the problems related to them," have been told to our detectives. Signage of "Must Be 21" was present in the stores, but 3/4 of the stores still sold THC vapes to our underage, undercover sources. Ultimately, 9 search warrants were conducted. 3 owners and 2 store clerks were taken into custody. The investigation is still ongoing. Our lab reports clearly show an entirely different picture than what the stores and manufacturers are showing on their COAs. The team found that a good portion of the businesses were owned by foreign nationals. We've identified some of the profits of the businesses being sent overseas, but we don't currently know the exact location where this money is ending up. But our partners at the DEA are still tracing these assets. This overall investigation is still ongoing. The products that did not test for Delta-9 THC did test for the presence of Delta-8 THC. The FDA at fda.gov said the following about Delta-8 THC. Delta-8 has psychoactive and intoxicating effects. FDA has received adverse reports involving Delta-8. Delta-8 has not been evaluated or approved by the FDA for safe use and may be marketed in ways that put the public health at risk. Delta-8 products often involve use of potentially harmful chemicals to create the concentration of Delta-8. Lastly, youth advocates from Texas for Safe and Drug-Free Youth are attempting to lobby lawmakers for more restrictions on cannabis products. This shows that reasonable and responsible students see a problem with the current gray areas in the market that need changing. Again, I'd like to thank the chair and the vice chair and all the esteemed members of this committee for your time today and your support of Senate Bill 3.
Thank you for your testimony. Sheriff, welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Chairman, members, thank you. I'm Brian Hawthorne. I'm the elected sheriff of Chambers County. It's just east of Houston on the northern end of the Galveston Bay complex. I'm here today representing myself and the Sheriff's Association of Texas, commonly known as the SAT. I'm here testifying in support of Senate Bill 3. This year, I began my 4th term as sheriff. Prior to that, I spent a career with DPS as a state trooper. Over the last 4 decades, I can recall at least 2 major drug crises in the state of Texas. The homemade methamphetamine problem of the late 90s and early 2000s, and the spice, K2, bath salts problems of the 2010s. Today's proliferation of the unregulated THC-laden products all over our streets and in our schools is the latest crisis. Senators, we, law enforcement, and the Texas legislature learned the hard way through those other crises that we cannot chase after and attempt to prohibit the individual compounds and isomers every session because the illicit drug makers will always be more nimble than the legislative process. Thankfully, this bill, Senate Bill 3, recognizes the past issues, and instead of trying to target only today's problem, Delta-8, or one of the other many 100-plus cannabinoids from the cannabis sativa plant, the SB 3 makes them all illegal, except CBD and CBG. Complete prohibition of the THC is the only way to solve this problem that the hemp bill created. We have well-regulated, low-THC medical prescription programs in this state. Let's make sure the program is robust and able to meet the needs of Texans who truly require this kind of treatment. While SAT, the Sheriff's Association of Texas, and I support the bill, I completely agree with Chief Dye. We need more enforcement options for law enforcement that do not require laboratory testing. Banning all THC laboratory testing makes laboratory testing and prosecuting these cases much easier, but it doesn't change the arrest dilemma that we have on the side of the road or when we're standing in the boys' bathroom at the school. In closing, SB 3 is a great step forward in returning Texas to our pre-hemp anti-marijuana enforcement posture, and the sheriffs of Texas fully support it. And I think it's important for me to also say that the sheriffs of Texas completely support any expansion that you may do to the CUP program because this is about needing to regulate the product, not take it away from the people that need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Doctor, welcome. Introduce yourself. Give us your testimony.
Yes, thanks for having me here today. I'm Dr. Lindy McGee. I'm a pediatrician in Houston, Texas, and I'm here representing Texas Medical Association, Texas Pediatric Society, and myself as a mother of 2 young adults. And thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 3. As a physician, I have seen the dangers that come from the unregulated, mislabeled hemp-derived THC products. And these products, as you've heard, are ubiquitous. They're in every vape shop, every CBD shop, and most gas stations these days. And I am seeing increased numbers of pediatric patients who are affected by these products. These products carry a special risk to my patients. I think we all realize that during that first 3 years of life, infants' brains are undergoing massive development. You're learning how to talk and walk, and you're making all of these neural connections. What is less realized is that what happens during adolescence and young adulthood through the age of 21, one of the reasons why 21 is important, is that you undergo this pruning process. So you prune down the connections to the ones that are most important. When you expose to THC to the brain during this pruning process, you are more at risk for developing cannabis use disorder or cannabis addiction. You're at risk for permanent learning and memory loss, IQ loss like you talked about. You're at increased risk for not attaining your educational achievement, so affecting your whole life if you're a high school dropout, college dropout, and increased risk of psychosis. I am seeing more and more teenagers in my practice who are using these products all day, every day. And I don't have a way to treat them. If they're using nicotine, I can give nicotine replacement therapy or Chantix or something like this. We have the Quit line as a resource. This is extremely hard to treat, this THC addiction. As they've mentioned, they come in sweet forms and flavors like gummies and candy, things that look like Captain Crunch cereal. My ER colleagues are seeing increased number of unintentional ingestions from the under 5-year-old age group coming into the emergency room. I talked to my colleague at Poison Control, and he said they received 544 calls last year in Texas for unintentional ingestion by age under 5. That compares to, in 2018, they had 74 calls. So a massive increase in the unintentional ingestion in under 5-year-olds. Parts of this bill that we especially like are the prohibiting of sales to those under 21, the tamper-resistant, child-resistant packaging, banning marketing to minors, including the cartoon figures or images that appeal to kids, and restricting sales near schools. Adding to the risk, as these other gentlemen have talked about, is the fact that we're seeing higher and higher THC doses in products being sold. So if you smoked a joint in the 1960s, that plant had about 3% THC in it. By the 1990s, it got to about 5%. When it became legal in Colorado, they've gotten it up, the plant, to about 17 to 20%. Vapes have over 80% THC in it, massively higher doses. These edibles, as they've mentioned, also extremely high doses. One researcher told me right now we have the lowest perceived risk with the highest actual risk of these products. So these high concentrations are associated with increased risk of addiction, increased risk of psychosis, even in adults. A recent study showed that hospital patients diagnosed with cannabis use disorder die at almost 3 times the rate of individuals without the disorder over a 5-year period. Banning access to these high-dose, unregulated products is an essential step to making Texas healthy and reducing chronic disease. I encourage you to go into a vape shop and see everything that they're selling there. As they've mentioned, what is written on the bottle is frequently not what is in the bottle. And it's crucial for my patient's safety that they have reliable information. These are the reasons why, as physicians who directly see the effects of these products, we are supporting Senate Bill 3 and need it to pass this legislative session. We encourage people who believe they need THC for health reasons to use the compassionate use program. We continue to support physician guidance and consultation for cannabis use. And we support addressing the root causes of substance use disorders and mental health concerns rather than punitive measures for the criminalization of possession. We must protect Texas youth from both immediate and long-term harm, safeguarding them from dependency and mental health challenges. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you, Doctor. Senator Perry, you have the panel.
Thank you. To the medical professional there. So, you should have heard the term THC, pot is a gateway drug. But at these amounts, where does the next layer of relief go to when you're ingesting 70, 80% pot? What's the next drug beyond that addiction?
I think the scary thing is we don't know.
Right.
These are new products. These are affecting brains in the way that we don't know all that they're doing. And so that's the scary thing.
Yep, that's kind of things. On the delivery, the vape delivery, not specific to THC-laced product, but in general, now the science is coming out that and if I'm wrong on this, or it's not scientifically accurate, you can say that's not true. But the science is coming out that vapor, those water molecules that get into the lungs, are having similar effects as what someone smoking a hot and carcinogen through cigarette. It's damaging the lungs. Is that a fair statement or not? The science is catching up.
It is a fair statement. So, I think the vaping industry had just this massive win when they called it vaping, and it makes it sound like it's water vapor, but really you're inhaling chemicals. I wish it should be called aerosolizing, not vaping, because you're inhaling an aerosol. So we know that those aerosol contains products that are damaging to the lungs. They do contain carcinogens. Tobacco smoke from traditional cigarettes contain more than vapes do, but vapes are not safe.
Thank you for that. Chief Dye, you and Sheriff Hawthorne mentioned it both that you would recommend some additional improvements to guarantee enforcement was effective. Would you please state a few of those, and then we would love to work with both of you guys to see where we didn't catch the loopholes. That's where we're at today. Is it's a loophole-seeking industry. So we want to hear those, but can you give the members some of the ideas that you would have there?
Sure. In reviewing this bill, it's a great bill. We love the intent, but we want to shore it up again, as I mentioned, so it's enforceable and prosecutable at the street level at 2 a.m. on night shift, right? So some things that we would like to see added, we would love for the lab where the retailers have to test their product to be a Texas lab, a certified Texas lab. We want a standardized method of testing because right now I'm currently being sued, and it will always be an argument over how it was tested, the lab reports. So we want to shore that up by making sure that we add a standardized method of testing. We want to make sure that they have to operate with a license or retail registration. I think we can do some things to bolster that in the substitute version. In the criminal section, anytime you list a criminal offense that says including and then whatever that may be, you also want to add the verbiage, but not limited to, because that way in future prosecutions, if a new variant or whatever is formed, we don't have to go back and change the law. We would like to add some more punitive measures for advertising to kids. And then finally, Senator, we feel like the enforcement, the regulation, and the oversight is a little bit too heavy on the state. They have finite resources. This is a local problem. So we would love for the retailers to have to test their products. Those products are entered in a registry with DISHES, the Department of Health and Human Services. And then when we go into a store, we can look to see if that product is legal on the registry. And if it's not, then we know they are not legally selling it.
So you raise, the bill will allow that. DISHES will have a registry, and it will give you access to those shelves with those products on it. If that product is not listed on that shelf by that establishment, you can confiscate the product and levy fines. And in addition to that, it is envisioned, and my expectation, you guys serve as a force multiplier. So it won't be strictly a DPS officer going to these establishments or dishes to do establishment. It will be locals partner with state resources to go after that. In fact, the business, I put a rider in the bill to actually provide some funding to the locals that do these enforcement vehicles. We'll see if it shows up. But to be clear, the registration of every product on that shelf will be required. And technically, if the bill's passed, it can only be CBG and CBD or other non-intoxicating products they may sell. And if it's not registered there, that is an illegal product by assumption. So I think it's not been made clearly in the bill. We need to address it, but we anticipate force multipliers on the local levels to help get the enforcement out there.
Yes, sir, because a couple of thoughts. We're getting complaints every day from our community members on
Right.
these. And we also have to think about the 10-person police department in the state
Exactly.
of Texas. They don't have money. It costs us at least $135 to test each sample. Most cities don't have that money. So I love your word, force multiplier. Now, the way we would, because we never want to over-criminalize, the way we would practically approach that is if it's not in the registry, that doesn't mean anybody goes to jail that day.
Correct.
We take the product and then we do a follow-up. We can file those criminal charges at large, including the civil sanctions. But I will tell you, I'm not optimistic that the retailers would do that. And quite frankly, Senator Zaffirini, to your earlier point, ma'am, of our 24 shops, 2 have been really supportive of our efforts because they're very legitimate CBD shops, and they don't like what this product has done to their reputation and their profession. But sir, and committee members, ma'am, the vast majority of these retailers, in our opinion, will not be able to stay in business if they are only selling legal products.
That's correct. And I hope those 2 see a proliferation of volume of businesses for the good stuff.
Yes,
That
sir,
would be good.
absolutely. And again, to reiterate, we also support the compassionate use program because that's a
We're going to have that build up next, and we'll go there. Sheriff, any other additional comments to make it more effective?
So, Senator, on your initial question to the doctor about gateway drug, the original marijuana world, if you'll remember K2 and spice, the kids thought that it was absolutely harmless. They could buy it in the convenience store. Probably 50% of what is in my jail and probably every jail in the state of Texas is a mental health crisis that was created from K2 and spice. And then the other half of that is probably from methamphetamine. So it's taken us a number of years to realize the impact of the K2 and the spice, and I have a feeling we're going to realize the same impact that the doctor's mentioning since we're dealing with such high levels of THC.
I think it was in New York. There was a subway incident with a guy with a machete, and it was recent. K2 was the drug that individual was on, and I don't remember if it was New York for sure, but it was in a subway environment, I believe, just recently. But K2 was, and I thought we took care of that, 15 years ago, very quickly. Someone pointed out, but that is truly an animal of its own kind for sure. But
Thank you, Senator Perry. The chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. McGee, is there any scientific evidence regarding the long-term impact of CBD and CBG on youth and their brain development?
CBD is more studied. CBG is not very well studied. I don't know of any on the long-term impact in youth. I think the research is just starting to be done on a lot of these products.
And specifically regarding non-intoxicating CBD and CBG, is there any evidence at all?
There's not evidence of safety, and there's not evidence of harm because there's not good evidence in studies in youth.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dean. Senator Birdwell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may be repeating what I didn't catch everything Senator Zaffirini said in her question, but so we may be parallel here. But I want to ask. I think it's a similar vein. First, let me tell Chief and Sheriff, thank y'all. I've seen y'all many times in testimony. Thank y'all for joining us today. My question today, though, is for Dr. McGee. CBD and CBG right now in the state of Texas is being synthesized with THC. The bill passes, makes it criminal that THC is synthesized into CBD, CBG. That is unlawful at the felony level, based on what the bill says. So if the bill is passed and obeyed by our CBD and CBG shops and does not contain THC, does CBD that is lawful to this bill and CBG lawful to this bill, what is the impact on the 18, 19, and 20-year-old brain development for the lawful use as this bill intends for CBD and CBG to be used?
Yeah, that's where I'm saying I think the research isn't there. So the decision is to decide whether you wait for something to show harm and then pull it, or you wait for proof of safety and then allow it. This bill would wait for proof of safety and then allow it, rather knowing about the brain development at that age.
Yeah. I certainly appreciate the answer, because that's what I was trying to drive to. Because look, I don't oppose what Senator Perry is trying to accomplish, but I think the principle that I'm trying to be faithful to in my view is that once you become an adult, you're an adult. And so that's why I was looking for the medical, because right now we know that the CBD and CBG that's out there as a product now is absolutely unhealthy. But at some future date with this passing, that CBD, CBG is healthy, or I should say healthy, is not THC. We still don't know the answer to that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Senator Bardwell. Senator Hinojosa, you're recognized.
Just a few short questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Hawthorne, you were mentioning additional tools, more enforcement options for restrooms and traffic stops. To expand on Senator Perry's questioning, were the options that Chief Dye mentioned, does that cover what your concerns were with regard to options for restrooms, traffic stops, that kind of thing?
Probably the only options that we have. One of our concerns is where somebody may buy a package of CBD or CBG. It may be in the gummy form, and that's how it's advertised. They open it, dump it out, they go to Colorado, and they fill it up with their own THC. And so that's one of the testing issues that we know we're going to run into. We're hoping that DPS will come out with an approved laboratory roadside type tests where we'll still have to send it to the lab, but we'll be able to identify what is actually, if it's a THC product, not so much the percentage of it, but whether it is THC, which then would give us that ability right there to make a roadside enforcement. So,
Senator, can I add to that?
Please.
So currently our officers have THC field testing kits, but to Mr. Mills' previous point, it shows presence, it doesn't show quantity. So typically we're finding these in larger quantities. We're finding these with maybe some other illegal substances, not always. So we're able to determine if it's THC, sometimes make an arrest. If that comes back below 0.3, those charges are dropped. But typically my officers are not arresting unless it's a product that they have come across before and that they know is above the 0.3. So I think that this bill would definitely help the testing aspect of it. And then again, I want to reiterate the other real inhibitor is even if you want to seize it, most departments don't have the finances to do the testing. And then the third component is I'm in Collin County. Our district attorney is willing to prosecute, but many district attorneys, I think they would if there was a more definitive law like this one.
Yes, sir. Just one more thing, just for my own education, Mr. Arsenault. Difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9?
You want the differences? Sorry. To be completely honest with you, sir, I can't label all the differences between the deltas for you. A lot of them are going to be differences between carbons and atoms when it comes down to it and how it's synthesized. We send all of our products to a DEA certified lab. The chemist there will test it and then give us the product back with a broke down version of all of that. And so when it comes down to Delta 8, we all know where the law is with that currently, and then we just look for the presence of the Delta 9.
Again, what we've seen through our testing, Delta 8 was assumed to be legal product, but that is not what has happened in all of our testing. You heard over 80 specimens. We're finding that most of the Delta 8 is also well above the 0.3 THC concentration.
There's an indefinite amount of these THCs that we can get, HHCs, THCPs, all those kind of things. It just really varies where we take these atoms from and how we produce it. So,
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Senator Middleton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Dr. McGee, I had a couple questions. So, there's this, old myth out there that this is not addicting, but you're saying you're seeing children, so under 18, addicted to THC-derived products, right? That's an increasing problem.
Yes. I am seeing patients. I had a patient in my office last week who was using the products all day long, despite having consequences at school and at home from it. So that would be addiction. I'm also talking to my colleagues at Texas Children's Hospital who are seeing patients admitted with the cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, where this is where you are throwing up so much as a result of using these products. They end up hospitalized for about a week with tubes down their noses to get fluids into them. And then they go home and start using it again and end up back in the hospital. To me, that's addiction. You are having that severe of a consequence and you can't stop using it.
And so it's, it is a little different from the withdrawals that you see from, alcohol. People can die from that. Benzos, people can die from that. There are other, but I mean, those are the hallmarks of addiction. It's just, I guess, the direct health consequences of withdrawal are maybe not as bad as some of the others, but the addiction is still there. So I also want to ask, what have you seen as far as the increase in mental health issues in under 18 related to this addiction to THC-derived product? How much more common has that become since 2020 or 2021, I guess, when this went into effect?
Well, I think when you're talking about mental health in youth, it's a very complicated situation right now. I think some of these committee members have seen me talk about social media in youth as well when I've testified on that. So I think that there are a lot of drivers to a worsening of mental health in adolescents that we're seeing. What I see mostly are teenagers who are using these products to treat their mental health. So what I find, I see a lot of depressed and anxious patients who have easy access to these products and so are using this to make themselves feel temporarily better and aren't able to access therapy or treatments that we know would help them.
And, on that, we've talked a lot about, not necessarily in this committee, but in the Education K-16 committee about the mental health crisis in our public schools. So, I mean, I'm here saying this is making it a lot worse, the mental health crisis, that we've seen.
Certainly becoming addicted to a substance and potentially having psychotic symptoms because of a substance is making the mental health worse.
And what are some of the psychoses that are triggered? You mentioned that, that it can trigger certain things in children under 18. What are some of those things that can be triggered?
So when I'm talking about psychosis, I'm talking about having things like hallucinations, paranoia, seeing things that aren't there, hearing things that aren't there, being paranoid that your parents are coming to get you or aliens are coming to get you. And they show up in the emergency room in these psychotic states. We know that people who have increased risk of schizophrenia, say they have schizophrenia in their family, it's particularly dangerous for them to have these products. So that's definitely an educational effort that needs to happen. When we look at this, we know that the younger that you use, the more likely you are to have this psychotic type of reaction. And when they've done studies, about 50% of people who have that psychotic reaction initially to cannabis products will go on to have a psychiatric disorder like bipolar or schizophrenia.
And would it be fair to say that once that's triggered, So schizophrenia, it can't be really untriggered. It can just be treated, right?
So once you have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, that's generally considered a lifelong diagnosis. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't want to speak outside of my profession. And what we know is that if you trigger it at a younger age, you have a worse prognosis. And that's what these products are doing.
And so in other words, it can't be untriggered. You're just going to have to treat it at that point.
Once you have that diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Is what we're left with a lot in medicine, where we're not actually curing it, we're just treating the symptoms. So
I'm passionate about preventative medicine. It's part of the reason I'm here today.
Thank you.
Senator Middleton. I spoke earlier about spice and K2. Back in the day when that became very prolific, it also was not addictive. We later learned it was one of the most addictive chemicals and substances, which is now part of the problem. And I think, being somebody that has managed a jail for the last 13 years, I don't think I've ever seen any kind of product that causes schizophrenia or bipolar disorder more than a product that was being sold in a gas station or convenience store. So, and I'm afraid that's what we're dealing with right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions for this panel? Thank you each for being here. Thanks for all you're doing. You're excused. Thank you. Now, for the benefit of those here watching this bill and the other bill left on our agenda, we are going to leave Senate Bill 3 pending, and at the same time, we're going to lay out Senate Bill 1505. Senate Bill 1505 is about the expansion and improvement to the compassionate use program. The bills go hand in hand, so we're going to recognize Senator Perry in a moment to lay out Senate Bill 1505. Senate Bill 3 is still before us. We'll have invited testimony on Senate Bill 1505, and then we'll have our public testimony together because so many witnesses are here on both. So with that roadmap, the chair lays out Senate Bill 1505 and recognizes its author, Senator Perry, to explain the measure.
Thank you, members and Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1505 is Texas Compassionate Use Program, or affectionately known as TCUP. Since 2015, the Texas Compassionate Use Program has provided physician-prescribed low-TH cannabis to patients with statutory designated medical conditions. The goal of the program has always been to provide patients with very serious medical conditions the right to try low-THC cannabis as an alternative option when traditional medical approaches have previously failed or been ineffective at providing the patient relief. Senate Bill 1505 seeks to modernize TCUP by creating a dispensing organization satellite location to improve the transportation and overnight storage of prescriptions. Additionally, the bill allows DPS to grant up to 6 TCUP dispensing licenses, and currently there are 3, so adding 3 other licenses. Furthermore, the bill clarifies that there can be up to 5 milligrams of THC per dosage unit. A package or container cannot contain more than 300 milligrams of THC, and a patient may not possess more than a 90-day supply. Senate Bill 1505 will also allow the administration of low THC cannabis through the use of pulmonary inhalation. This is a new delivery method that will allow patients to utilize a faster acting administration method if needed for their particular medical conditions. Currently, those medical conditions statutorily allowed for are epilepsy, seizure order, multiple sclerosis, spasticity, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, autism, cancer, incurable neurodegenerative disease, post-traumatic stress disorder, or a medical condition that is approved for a research program. The current TPOC program has provided many challenges to actual practical application and dispensing of TCUP, of THC, low-level cannabis, prescribed by a physician. This bill would actually allow multiple locations where distribution can occur. Currently, as an example, if you're in Lubbock, Texas, and you're on the program, you went through the process, doctor prescribes it, it is out of Austin, Texas, a courier, if you will, a deliverer, will take it to Lubbock, Texas, and deliver it. If that individual is not there in person to meet you for that delivery, that Austin person will have to go back to Austin. And so it's become very much impractical in its actually access to TCUP administration for delivery. So this bill cleans that up and provides a few satellites Under the current licenses, expands license by 3 and will allow people that truly are prescribing through a physician for this medical treatment to have access to it.
Thank you, Senator Perry. Members, any questions for the author on Senate Bill 1505? Very well. We'll open testimony, beginning with invited testimony on Senate Bill 1505. The chair calls Chief Wayne Mueller, Department of Public Safety, Nico Richardson, Jervon Singletary. For our first panel, Chief Wayne Mueller, Nico Richardson, Jervon Singletary. Have a seat, and Chief, since we called you first, when you're ready, introduce yourself and give us your testimony. Thank you.
Members, Wayne Mueller, Chief Regulatory Services Division at DPS, which houses the Compassionate Use Program for the state of Texas. I don't have any prepared testimony. I'm here as a resource on the bill, and I will try to answer any questions you may have.
Very well, thank you. Ms. Richardson, introduce yourself, give us your testimony. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Members of the State Affairs Committee, thank you for hearing testimony this morning. My name is Nico Richardson, and I am the CEO of Texas Original Compassionate Cultivation. I'm testifying in support of SB 1505. Compassionate Cultivation, our company, was the first licensed operator in the teacup 8 years ago. We started by serving epileptic patients and have subsequently supported the program over its evolution. We now serve tens of thousands of critically ill Texans with a variety of approved conditions in current statute. We have invested heavily to build a compliant distribution network within the program. Despite this, there are limitations that make medication very difficult for our patients to access. As a result, we have seen a large number of our patients leave the program for non-medical cannabis products. There are 3 main reasons that patients leave the teacup: access, price, and products. The improvements in SB 1505 will reduce these barriers for our patients. Right now, we may only store our medicine, as Senator Perry said, we may only store our medicine in one location, but we have a statutory requirement to serve the entire state of Texas. Our facility is located just south of Austin. That means in order to serve patients outside of Austin, our drivers travel from a variety of pickup sites across Texas every single day. This adds exorbitant cost to deliver the medicine, and that cost ultimately falls on our patients. It also means that patients living outside of Austin must wait a longer time to get their medicine. And for some remote regions of Texas, that can be up to 2 weeks. With DPS-approved satellite locations, our patients who live in remote areas of Texas will be able to receive their medicine in a timely manner. Satellite locations will also reduce our delivery cost and thus the cost of the medicine for patients. Please keep in mind that health insurance does not cover teacup medication, and so the full cost of this medicine is borne by the patients. Patients also leave the system because they cannot access the products they need for their condition. Patients with conditions like stomach cancer have great difficulty ingesting medicine orally, and some episodic conditions require rapid relief, which cannot be delivered with orally ingested products that must pass through a patient's digestive tract first. Pulmonary inhalation will offer more efficient treatment for these patients. And lastly, measuring THC limit by milligrams instead of 1% potency will cut filler ingredients, reduce gastrointestinal issues in patients, and allow for better delivery mechanisms like capsules, transdermal patches, as well as pulmonary inhalation. We're very grateful to the Senate for bringing these important improvements to the teacup and believe that these changes will help a lot of Texans. We wholeheartedly support SB 1505. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll have questions for all of you after this panel. And Singletary, welcome. Introduce yourself. Give us your testimony.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jervon Singletary, and I serve as Vice President of Compliance and Government Relations for Good Blend. I'm testifying on behalf of support of SB 1505. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you today. Good Blend is one of 3 licensed medical marijuana providers in Texas, working to unlock the benefits of medical marijuana by providing safe, high-quality products prescribed by licensed physicians, and free from harmful byproducts like pesticides and heavy metals. We appreciate Senator Perry's work on this legislation and would like to highlight several key improvements that will expand patient access while maintaining safety. First, by allowing overnight storage at satellite locations, SB 1505 will allow patients to access new parts of the state where it's currently not feasible for our drivers to deliver products. Right now, each morning, our team has to drive from our headquarters in Austin to pick up locations, and sometimes our patients' homes to deliver pre-ordered products. For products that are not picked up within the limited time window, they are then driven back to Austin at the conclusion of each day. On average, the time from patient order to pickup is just over 4 days, and in some cases 2 weeks. And there are parts of the state that we simply do not go due to distance constraints. Overnight storage would eliminate unnecessary travel and subsequent delays. And by keeping our products in a secure satellite location, we'll allow our patients the ability to pick up their medicine at times that are convenient for them. SB 1505 authorizes pulmonary inhalation for patients with episodic conditions who need faster relief than oral products, which can take 45 minutes to 2 hours to take effect. There are patients like our senior citizens with progressing ALS or people who have epileptic seizures. Their symptoms could strike at any time, and every second counts. In those cases, immediate relief is needed, and that is the benefit inhalation provides. By addressing these key areas, satellite storage and inhalation, SB 1505 broadens patient access while ensuring therapeutic benefits of medical cannabis remain safe, regulated, and effective. Thank you again for the time to come before the committee to share our support for the state compassionate use program. We appreciate your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Perry, you may question the panel.
Thank you. Back to DPS. You're the department that would issue the new 3 licenses, correct?
Yes, Senator.
You're also the department that would set out the rules for the satellite storage and location, how that would look and work, correct?
Correct, Senator.
Okay. I'm asking not to address past problems associated with getting the licensing out where it needs to be, but the SB 3, I think, has a September 1, 25 enactment date. And the teacup bill is going to parallel that fairly quick. What I guess I'm going to get to, just to the heart of it, I think everybody is serious about having a very effective, pragmatic teacup program, especially if we're removing people that are currently getting unregulated, arguably, as Senate Bill 3 described, not good product. So what is it in your estimation today, knowing what we're talking about doing 5005, and how long, if anything, that is a problem or a challenge for you to get behind getting those 3 licenses vetted? My understanding is there's hundreds in applications standing there to be done. I don't know if you pull from that pool or if you reopen it, how you do it, but once that, and the existing licenses, they're ready to go. But how long is it going to take you to get the rules and set up to do these new locations for existing first and primary, because they're already established in the market and have physicians that are in network that understand how to do this program? What I don't want to do is come back in 2027 and find out that we're still in rules process. What's the time frame does it take to get this particular bill implemented for satellites and the additional 3 licensees processes?
Sure, Senator. So the satellite locations, I would not anticipate that will take a lot of time at all. We already have a bit of a template. Born out of COVID was the concept of temporary pickup locations. So we work with the licensees on having a location where the courier can meet up with the patient, say in El Paso or some of these remote locations that they will send the courier to on occasion. It's not nearly as good as accessibility for the patient for all the reasons that have already been described, but we already have a template of what that looks like. Certainly it will be more involved. The security requirements that would be in place, where exactly the location is. It will not be as arduous as their center where they're actually growing the plant, of course, but we already have those templates in place. So standing up rules for the satellite locations, I do not anticipate that will take a lot of time. As far as adding the new licensees, We have been in rather constant discussion about what the methodology we want to use to make the selection. This has been, if this bill passes as is, this helps answer part of it, that there's a maximum that we will have to pick 3 and only 3. Across the nation, Texas is involved in CANRA, Cannabis Regulators Association, which are like Texas, other programs, and it's a wealth of information for regulators to pass information back and forth, best practices and whatnot. One of the things we found is that a given rule of thumb is it takes about 18 months for one of these entities to stand up from the time that they are given approval to move forward. So we would need to get rules in place very quickly in order to then have the possibility that some are operational before next session starts. Again, we do have a template as to how to go about doing that with how they were selected the last time. We do have 132 applications that were taken in 2 years ago now. We would probably need to look to have an update on those. But now that we have, if this bill passes as is, authorization to move forward and potentially have that type of expansion, we already have some that we can pull from. We just need to decide how we're going to come up with 3.
Okay. To my teacup owner in the middle there, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Nico Richardson.
Nico, yeah, that's right. Can you suggest things that in this current satellite through COVID and those kind of things, do you have some suggestions that could help the department with the satellite locations to make sure that once those are complete, they are effective and work as intended? I don't know if you know anything like that today, but I would encourage the department to talk to the 3. You only have 3 licenses out there, and my understanding really is there's only 2 that are really participating at a robust level, or at least at some delivery level. So be sure as you're talking about the satellites, the department needs to hear from those that are living under those rules of just common sense things that could be better to make sure the delivery is correct. Is that a fair statement? Okay.
Absolutely.
Don't operate in a vacuum on either side. Don't assume either side knows, but there are things I'm sure that we learned through the COVID satellite conversations that in hindsight probably could be a little bit better, and I would encourage you guys to work together to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Perry. Senators, any questions for this panel? Very good. Thank you for being here. As we continue invited testimony on Senate Bill 1505, the chair calls Dr. Kelly Moon, Dr. Rami Turner, and Kaylee Koch. We're looking for Dr. Kelly Moon, Dr. Rami Turner, and Kaylee Koch.
They were told to come back at the end.
That's fine. We'll get to them in due course. Thank you very much. And Major Melson, Chief Mills, we had asked y'all to stick around till we got through that part, and so thank you. You're excused. I'm sure we'll have questions for you going forward, but we're not asking you to stay. You're welcome to stay, but we're not asking you to stay for the rest of the hearing. Thank you for being here and for giving us your attention. So for the benefit of the witnesses, we will be hearing public testimony on both Senate Bill 3 and Senate Bill 1505. A number of witnesses are registered on both, and so we'll try to get them toward the front, and then we'll move through and hear you on whatever bill you registered to testify on. And so with that, as we open public testimony, so the chair calls Christine Scruggs, Mario Cruz Wolfel, Lisa Heel, Rhonda Howard. Again, we're looking for Christine Scruggs, Mario Cruz Wolfel, Lisa Heel, Rhonda Howard. We're going to give folks time to come down from the gallery. If you're up there, looks like we're already down here. Y'all are welcome. We're also looking for Nicole Holt. Nicole Holt. So Christine Scruggs, Mario Cruz Wolfel, Lisa Heel, Rhonda Howard, Nicole Holt. And do we have Dr. Matthew Rossheim with us to testify? One more time, Christine Scruggs, Mario Cruz Wolfel, Lisa Heel, Rhonda Howard, Nicole Holt, Dr. Matthew Rossheim. All right, we'll begin and see who else makes it. Thank you each for being here. We normally begin over on my left, your right. Introduce yourself when you're ready and give us your testimony. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Christine Scruggs, and I'm from Pearland, Texas. Mays Middleton is my senator. Thank you for letting us speak today. I'm here to tell you about the devastating effects that THC products have had on our family and to encourage you to ban all intoxicating hemp products in Texas. My son was a great student, in the top 7% of his class, National Honor Society vice president of his band. His use of THC started at the age of 22, after college graduation. He ate chocolate infused with THC, then tried gummies. Within 8 months, he was using daily and was addicted. His roommate began calling him psychotic because of his irrational beliefs. He had developed a delusion. He described hallucinations, and we thought he might have schizophrenia. There is no history of mental illness in our family, nor pre-existing in him. We tried for 11 months to get him to seek mental health help and addiction help. We resorted to using the Marchman Act in Florida to force treatment. He was diagnosed with cannabis-induced psychotic disorder. He worked through a dual diagnostics program for 8.5 months. His therapist told him he is lucky not to have converted to a long-term diagnosis of bipolar or schizophrenia. We have spent $180,000 on treatment, excluding other costs that are outlined in my written testimony, which also shows pictures of the actual Texas products that my son consumed. I'm offended that representatives from those hemp companies are opposing this bill and harming Texans. My son never used any other drug and used THC simply because it was legalized by the loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill. These products are psychoactive, addictive, and causing devastating mental and physical effects to thousands. Millions are addicted. Please follow scientific facts and learn from the mistakes of other states who have legalized cannabis. If these products are medicinal, they should go through the FDA approval process. Please give Texas law enforcement personnel the tools they need to enforce Texas THC laws. Please support Texas Bill Number 3 and ban all THC products because our youth's brains are worth infinitely more than any amount of money that THC sales can produce. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Crooks, thank you for being here. and thank you for telling us your experience and your family's experience. If I previously called you to testify and there's a seat, feel free to take it. If there's not a seat, hold tight and we'll get to you shortly. So please have a seat. Thank you. Welcome. Introduce yourself. And also, let me ask this. For some, we're going to know, but some folks are testifying on Senate Bill 3. Some are on 1505. Some are on both. So just tell us when we get to you. We know you're on 3, Ms. Scruggs. Welcome. Introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Hello, my name is Lisa Heel, and I am from Cypress, Texas. I am here to support Senate Bill 3. Texas, we have a problem. THC is poison and is being sold on Texas corners. THC is causing psychosis, permanent brain damage, and death. There are vapes, pens, dabs, and wax products, along with gummies and other edibles that are dessert or snack-like. Products have different names like Delta 8, 9, 10, A, B, C, all dangerous. It's easy to stay high for days by spending just $15 to $30. The medical community is not trained as to how these products affect people. Thanks to the organization, Every Brain Matters, I've learned more about what these products do to the brain. You will hear from the industry that these products are good and help with things like cancer or PTSD. I'm attaching and passing out a copy of the VA's opinion on using marijuana for PTSD. It is a hard no. The VA simply does not support the use of marijuana-based products as treatment for PTSD. We all know the real aim of these products is to get people high. When your brain goes into psychosis, it's like a light switch being switched in the brain. You do not know when the light switch will switch back out of psychosis, and it can be permanent. Before THC, my loved one was a successful college student at a major Texas university. He was interested in school and involved with professors and friends. There were never any mental health issues underlying in our family. After THC, my child experienced mental confusion, delusion, and bizarre behavior, including psychosis. There was paranoia, including behavior that was pushy, argumentative, agitated, angry, and even violent. My loved one was in serious danger to THC. He was scaring his own family. We had to get help, but where? It's a long, hard nightmare to find help. The resources are not available. Taking these drugs off the shelves is the only right thing to do in Texas. Making it illegal to possess them will deter use and save lives. Thank you for Senate Bill 3. This bill will prevent the destruction of many families. I cannot thank you enough for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being here. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nicole Holt. I am the CEO of Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth. Thank you for having me here today. I am here to testify in support of Senate Bill 3. I represent myself and the organization here today. I believe that this bill will protect young people from the dangers of derived, intoxicating cannabis products. Research tells us that when you increase access to a product, use also increases. The Texas hemp bill created unprecedented access to intoxicating cannabis and cannabis-derived products with no limitations on the products themselves or marketing strategies. And so now, no matter where you go in the state, urban, suburban, rural communities, these products, which are often marketed in kid-friendly ways, are packaged and right in front of them, readily available. In addition to vape stores, they've shown up in kiosks, in malls next to kids' play zones, in vending machines on the street, and they are commonly found in gas stations and convenience stores. The handout that I gave you that has pictures on the front of it, those are all from stores in Texas that community members around the state have taken pictures of. Youth cannabis use is already a concern in our state, with 13% of middle and high school students reporting use and 1 in 4 high school seniors using the drug. You've already heard what a lot of the medical concerns are related to it. I also want to share with you that these products also contribute to impaired driving. Young drivers are particularly at risk, with 26% of crash fatalities among those 25 and younger involving both alcohol and cannabis combined. While alcohol is the most common cause of fatal crashes, alcohol combined with cannabis is the second most common cause of deadly impaired driving incidents in our state. A few days ago, I asked people to share personal stories about their experiences with these products, and we heard from numerous people and communities from all over the state. We packaged together some of their responses in your packet as well so that you have those on file. Parents, teachers, law enforcement, and community leaders are all saying the same thing. These products should not be easy for kids to get, and they should be removed from the shelves. SB3 takes the necessary steps to achieve this goal. A comprehensive ban is the best practice. Texans want and deserve these protections, and we hope that you will provide them for them. This is a critical moment for us to put well-being of kids and our communities over business interests. I urge you to pass SB3 to ban intoxicating cannabis products, close dangerous loopholes, and implement a strong regulatory framework to keep our children safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Dear members of the Texas Senate, my name is Maricruz Wilfield. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you a glimpse of the living nightmare THC products have caused to my family for the past 2 years. My son, now 29, was a healthy and productive young adult, a successful cameraman for churches, corporate, and political events. He loved spending time with family and friends. He was committed to health and fitness and was hesitant to even try over-the-counter medicines, much less use street drugs. But then THC products became legal in Texas. Vape shops appear everywhere with their deceitful marketing tactics, even though these products have not been FDA approved to be in the hands of millions of Americans. In subtle ways, this deception took root and hijacked his brain. Finally, his life erupted in chaos. He lost his job, his money, but worst of all, his reasoning capacity. For almost 2 years, he has experienced psychotic symptoms, including paranoia, delusions, and hallucinations. He lacks awareness of his condition, so we haven't been able to get him effective help. Additionally, we don't have the $30,000 a month most dual diagnosis facilities charge to properly help individuals in his situation. Instead, my husband and I are his full-time caregivers. This time, the time and finances we thought we would have to become entrepreneurs after my husband retired are now used looking for options to help our son's brain heal. With abstinence, he was slowly improving. Unfortunately, THC products are so prevalent in our neighborhoods and easily accessible. Recently, he got hold of a THC vape again and relapsed. Immediately, his symptoms worsened, and he's back into a severe psychosis. We are broken but resolved to help him. Part of that resolve is asking you, please, support SB3 and ban all forms of THC products. Help us keep our children healthy, functional, and productive. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
I'm Dr. Matthew Rossheim. I'm providing testimony on SB3.
Get a little closer to the microphone. Go ahead.
I'm an associate professor at the University of North Texas Health Science Center and one of the leading experts on, public health experts on semi-synthetic intoxicating cannabis products like Delta-8 THC. I've published 20 peer-reviewed research manuscripts on the topic in the last few years. And I'm here representing myself today as a Texan. Nationally, we know that 1 in 8 high school students used Delta-8 THC last year. These products are often deceptively advertised, mislabeled, and marketed with cartoon characters and candy flavors. These are harmful substances. Since emerging in the market, ERs have observed rapid increases in pediatric poisonings, cases of psychosis, and cannabis-induced hyperemesis syndrome. Regulating these substances would not address the root of these harms, which is the intoxicating cannabinoids themselves. Regulations create an illusion of safety rather than real protection. To the contrary, my research supports the effectiveness of bans in helping keep these harmful products out of communities. I commend Senator Perry for crafting a strong bill that, if enacted as enforced, as intended, would prohibit the sale of intoxicating cannabis products, create a strong framework for enforcement, and help prevent youth access to CBD products. I'm impressed with the thoroughness of the drafted bill and just have two recommendations. First, to strengthen against any legal challenges, incorporating fail-safes can help ensure the enforceability even if specific provisions are preempted or challenged. While seemingly redundant, using previously tested legal language and severability clauses can help reduce the risk of the law being struck down in court. And second, while the bill includes many appropriate measures to prevent youth access to CBD products, research shows that youth access can be further reduced by either restricting store entry to those 21 or older or keeping the products behind the checkout counter. So this would help further protect children from accessing CBD products, which, while non-intoxicating, are also harmful products. So thank you for your leadership in addressing this issue.
Thank you, guys. I just want to say thank you to all the moms that are here with the vulnerability testimony, to the doc. There's really nothing that ends well in this particular arena. Is that a fair statement?
Nothing that ends well with having these products.
THC, I mean, there's not really anything you can point to positive of that.
No.
In your experience. So will you get with Rob? He's my colleague on this right here. Raise your hand, Rob, and give him those ideas that you had for better closing loopholes. That's what we're about today, is closing loopholes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Senators, any questions for this panel? Senator Hall, you're recognized.
No, just a comment of, what we're hearing, what we're learning, how an industry takes advantage of every possible loophole. The graphic that was provided by one of the folks there, just looking at what they put on the names, one called Stoned, and then a mobile shop called a Head Shop, and each of these others are obviously in colors and caricatures to attract kids to it. And I can see how this, that there is no question in my mind that this bill is seriously needed.
Yes, sir. Senators, any other questions? Thank you each for being here. Thank you for sharing. We had previously called Rhonda Howard. We're still looking for Rhonda Howard. All right, welcome. I'm not fussing at you. We're glad you're here. It's a big building to navigate. We're also, the chair calls Aurelia Rosales and Andres Valle. So we're looking for Aurelia Rosales and Andres Valle. And if they're, we'll give them a few minutes to come down. Welcome. Have a seat anywhere. And Ms. Howard, we'll start with you. Welcome. Introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to, can you hear me? I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present again. I did come back in May as well and share my testimony. Not much has changed. I do want to say just real quick, I was really saddened and then angered when some of the guests in the, here were listening to the sheriffs give a testimony about intoxication and deadly intoxication of marijuana, and they were laughing. This is not a laughing matter, and it's affected so many families. In 2018, I experienced the graduation and the start of college for my firstborn child. He's an Eagle Scout. He's an honor student. He seemed to struggle with socialization, but was excited after starting college at Sam Houston. Little did I know that he had begun using cannabis to deal with his anxiety. I noticed behavior changes, but was unaware of the use of THC products. He had gotten involved with boxing, and when he saw the college physician, he admitted to using THC. The doctor ordered a CT to rule out concussion due to him getting hit a few times during the boxing. During the winter break, college in 2019, my son and his childhood friends were using cannabis. Let me do this. All smoking forms of products like Delta 8, almost daily, and that was the beginning of our family's nightmare. He ended up in a psychotic state and was hospitalized. After he was able to return to college on a low level of antipsychotic, his addiction to THC products was already there. I didn't know. He showed severe personality changes and was admitted to an intensive outpatient program. In 2022, my son was unable to remain in school and tried to just work. He would use much of his check at local vape stores buying Delta 8 products, CBD, and whatever would take his mind away from the psychotic features that he was experiencing. This led to a revolving door of hospitalizations as the Delta 8 products are synthetic and cause immediate psychosis. None of the hospitalizations focus on THC addiction, and no insurance will just pay for THC facilities. They only concentrated on stabilizing him on antipsychotic medications. Our family has been forever impacted. This has devastated our lives. My son's brain health has been severely damaged. The trauma that THC and all the hemp cannabis derivatives have caused to my family and so many families that you've already heard has to be prioritized by legislators. I now live on edge, not knowing if my son will ever be able to become mentally stable. I have not found any treatment programs that specialize and focus on the CIP, the cannabis-induced psychosis. My son still does not grasp the fact that THC products are the cause of his brain being altered in a false reality. I've gone into debt, sending him out of state. I work 2 jobs to do this, and I'm in the health profession as well. Sending him to treatment programs in the hopes that his brain will have a chance to heal. When I first shared my story with the Texas State Committee on State Affairs in May of 2024, I had just sent him out of state because there was no programs here. It is now March 2025, and my son is still away, and he's still struggling. It's getting better slowly, but he's still struggling. So I just want to ask that you guys give the children a chance and outlaw these products. Thank you.
Ms. Howard, thank you for your testimony, and you shared your story, and thank you for taking time and opening this up and coming back to help your family and others. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Welcome. Introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Andres Valle. I'm a Youth Leadership Council member for Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth, and I'm speaking today to get your support in SB3. I am a high school senior in El Paso, and I'd like to share with you a personal story about derived intoxicating cannabis products. At just 16 years old, my brother walked into a local convenience store near his high school and bought a Delta 8 THC vape pen. The store never carded him, and the appeal was simple. These products were cheap, widely available, and heavily marketed in stores that don't have any age restriction. People my age hear a lot of things about cannabis being safe and even healthy for you. The marketing suggests these products are a lot like candy and chips and other snacks we eat. But no one protected my brother from the dangers of these products. For my brother, the consequences became clear quickly. As he put, he began to feel like he was going to faint, soon after inhaling one of the Delta 8 THC vapes. Not long after, he ended up in the hospital ER due to severe reaction, including troubled breathing. Unfortunately, he continued to use different versions of these cannabis vapes. He experienced emotional and behavioral distress in the aftermath. He became irritable, withdrawn, and unpredictable. He started skipping class, then missing weeks of school, until he eventually decided to drop out altogether, something none of my family could have ever imagined him doing. Before, he had plans and goals, but afterwards, it was like he didn't see a point in trying. My family and I did everything we could to help him, but it felt like no matter how much we tried, we were watching him slip away even further. From the person he used to be, it was terrifying to see someone we loved change so drastically, and to feel so powerless when all we wanted to do was bring him back. Now my brother wants his story to be heard because he knows he's not the only teenager who has been affected by the easy access of derived intoxicating cannabis products. And for me, sharing this story is personal. I want to ensure no other young person has to go what he and my family went through. This is why SB3 matters. It's protecting kids from harmful products that are far too easy to access, and it's removing these dangerous products from our shelves. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hello, my name is Arely Rosales, and I am here with Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth, and I'm speaking to you today in support of SB3. Thank you for this opportunity. I am a concerned young Texan and a mental health professional. I'm here today to share a personal story that I've had with these dangerous THC products and derived intoxicating cannabis products that are easily accessible to young Texans. When I was 18, I was struggling with severe depression, so I turned to a peer for help, and she recommended me these edibles from our local smoke shop that they did in ID. Desperate to feel better, I went and bought edibles that look like the rainbow strip candies that I enjoy. I consumed one strip just like I would any other candy, and the result was terrifying. I suffered a panic attack, hallucinations, and I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move, nor control my mind. And it was so intense that I started to have suicidal ideations. And this experience lasted for days. I was completely disconnected from reality and unable to function, that I didn't go to school or work for 3 days. And this experience is so common that young people and others refer to it as greening out. And even now, there's a new medical term that was created called scromiting, which is when a person is both vomiting and screaming from abdominal pain from consuming cannabis. And I have seen my peers go through similar ordeals, and now as a mental health professional, I see my middle school and high school clients go through these troubling experiences. And these THC products are marketed to young people with colorful packaging and replicating candies and snacks that they love, but these products are not what they seem. Though it may be unusual for us our age to be here advocating against THC accessibility, we do so because the urgency of the issue is undeniable. And the truth is, we don't fully understand the chemicals in these products. People selling these may say that they're helpful, but we see that they're causing harm. Young people who might think that they're just having fun or looking for an escape are put at risk facing traumatic consequences instead. A ban is the only option for getting these products out of stores and protecting our kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. If there's any questions for these witnesses. Ms. Howard, Mr. Valle, Ms. Rosales, thank you for being here. You're excused. Thank you for your testimony. The chair now calls Kaylee Koch, Dr. Kelly Moon, Dr. Rami Turner. Thank you. We can clean that up when we get down here. Thanks. Take a seat. It doesn't matter which one. Just make yourself as comfortable as possible. And we'll begin over here on my left, your right. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hello, my name is Dr. Rami Turner, and I'm here to advocate for and testify for the approval of SB 1505. I'm a family medicine doctor, and I own a practice called Devoted Family Medicine. I've been a Texas resident my entire life, and even when I was in residency, I lived on the Texas side. So I'm also a Christian, and I've been serving as a Christian in my church for nearly 40 years. So you can imagine that as a conservative Christian, making a decision to be in Teacup was not an obvious choice. And I couldn't imagine what my friends would say. But when I was in medical school and working with patients, I saw that there was, in certain circumstances, a use for this drug. And so I had to weigh one or the other. And so I was worried about telling my friends. So who do you tell first? I told my pastor. And you know what he said? He said, "Great. Can you help Harry? He has Parkinson's." So I began as a prescriber for Teacup. And my first patient, a man I didn't even know, found out he had MS when he was stepping off the stage after playing the drums for his church. And he was able to get on a really good dose. We had him really stable, but he couldn't afford the medication. So he stopped asking for prescriptions. And I believe that SB 1505 would have helped this man afford his medications, and that with having satellite locations, he would have had a better accessibility. Speaking of spasms, I believe SB 1505 will help with the improvement of symptoms in patients faster and better. In a spasm, a person's body begins to contort and distort, and it travels like a Charlie horse up through the body and becomes like a snowball. And if it grabs the ribs and locks up the ribs or locks up the diaphragm, their situation is dire. And they need immediate inhalation, pulmonary inhalation, in order to stop this process. Some of these people do die instantly and no one knows why. I am here to testify for the support of HB 1505 because I believe that by allowing people faster access through satellite locations and faster access for immediate pulmonary inhalation will greatly benefit my patients. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome, introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hi, I am Dr. Kelly Moon. I am from Nacogdoches, Texas, from East Texas. And I really do appreciate you guys having us here. Sorry we were out. We didn't realize the order. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today. I am a board-certified family practice physician. I'm also a teacup physician. I am testifying in support of the Senate Bill 1505. I've been prescribing medical cannabis under the Compassionate Use Program since 2021. This medicine has provided relief to my patients suffering from cancer, seizures, PTSD, autism. I could list numerous things, and many neurologic conditions. I have witnessed the impossible become possible. The mother of a child who once had no hope of a future has one. Her family has one. The veteran whose nightmares kept him up all night and never got rest actually had to be obtunded to actually get out of his nightmares, actually now has rest. The patient who no longer spends every waking hour in pain has rest. I have also witnessed some of the limitations of my patients. One of my patients in particular, the one that actually motivated me to be more active in the program, actually had cancer, terminal cancer. She was battling it and couldn't ingest medication anymore. She had to stop all of her other medications. She was unable to take any type of oral marijuana at all. She would have benefited from the program having inhalation therapy, but it was unavailable at the time, and her family actually ended up going out of state and illegally obtaining medications. And I'm not sure exactly wherever else they went, but they had to get them for her. Since there were no medical options, she, as a very law-abiding citizen, had to do this. This was not her choice, her family's choice. There are many law-abiding Texans that don't want to risk their health with unregulated medications, unregulated things out there that are being sold that they have no idea what's in it, psychedelics, K2, kratom, all kinds of crazy things. Very unregulated and illegal options, really, and alternatives, and then crossing over borders and doing this illegally as well. But they cannot use the products currently available in the teacup sometimes, and the Senate Bill 1505 would actually give these patients a safe, fast-acting treatment option by allowing for pulmonary inhalation. Senate Bill 1505 will also help my patients who live mostly in rural areas. I am in East Texas, and most of my patients travel at least 15 minutes to an hour just to get to me for my private practice, and as well travel hours to get to me for my cannabis practice, which is a separate time. The current restrictions on inventory storage mean that my patients have to wait longer for their medications. They have to travel further. They have to travel back and forth to see me and then to get product later. And they have to pay more for those medicines that they have been prescribed because of the regulations and because of the costs to the dispensaries. Satellite locations will ensure my patients get the help they need. And many hospice patients, which I'm currently dealing with, I'm talking with hospice directors, and their concerns are that we don't have anything fast enough. We can do some baseline medication with them, like Motrin. If you were to give Motrin to someone for 8 hours, they would not have a fever for those 8 hours, but for 16 they would. And you can do that, but we can't control acute pain as well as we can the chronic pain at this time with legal product. The bill will ensure that patients have access to medical cannabis in a safe, regulated manner. It will allow us to reach those patients who are in pain, living with debilitating conditions, and fighting for a chance for a better life for them and for their family members. I have seen fascinating results. I want to thank you guys, you lawmakers, you guys stepping up and trying to help Texans in creating this program, one, to help those who suffer. It has helped so many of my patients, and I would like to reiterate my strong support for Senate Bill 1505.
Thank you, Doctor. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hi, members of the Senate State Affairs Committee. My name is Kaylee Cook, and I represent myself. I am testifying here today in strong support of SB 1505. My son Jacob is 10 years old and relies on this medication every day for his seizures. Like many families in Texas, the Compassionate Use Program has brought us hope, relief, and reassurance knowing that our loved ones can access a safe medicine. On January 1st, 2020, my family experienced one of the most difficult nights of our lives. In the middle of the night, my son Jacob had his most severe seizure we had seen, and we needed to rush him to the hospital. We knew from that moment something had to be done. A few months later, we discovered the Compassionate Use Program, and Jacob began taking the medicine. In October 2024, Jacob celebrated 4 years seizure-free because of medical cannabis. A few months later, in addition to my family's story, I have witnessed the importance of this medicine in my career as an infusion nurse with Texas Oncology. We have several doctors who prescribe medical cannabis in our practice, and it has been an important treatment for those cancer patients suffering with debilitating symptoms. SB 1505 would give patients living with cancer and other illnesses immediate relief, better access, and more affordable medical care. As a mother, I cannot risk giving my son an unregulated product to treat his seizures. As a nurse, I understand how important safe medicine is to the patients. I want to thank the Texas legislatures for creating a regulated program where we can trust the medicine that we are giving our loved ones and our patients. Families like mine rely on the Compassionate Use Program, and SB 1505 will make necessary improvements so that they can continue getting the medical care they need. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Perry, any questions for this panel? Thank you each for being here.
Thank you for letting us be here.
Thank you.
We'll now begin testimony from folks who have registered on both bills. And so we'll be calling a panel at a time, and we'll also be asking some folks to be waiting to testify the next panel. So you can be making your way to the Senate floor and be prepared. So at this time, the chair calls Andrea Steele, David Bass, Kevin Hale, Christopher Lewis, Elizabeth Miller. Again, we're looking for Andrea Steele, David Bass, Kevin Hale, Christopher Lewis, and Elizabeth Miller. Andrea Steele,
I'm here.
David Bass, Kevin Hale, Christopher Lewis, Elizabeth Miller.
Ms. Miller's upstairs. She's on her way.
Ms. Miller's coming down. Very good. We'll also call Joshua Thompson. Joshua Thompson. And I'm going to call a few more names and ask these folks to be making your way down and be ready to testify on the next panel. Shortly, we'll be calling Nicholas Gresham, Lucas Gilkey, and Jake Gary. If I called your name, have a seat. We got plenty of room. So again, please be making your way down for the next panel. If you're Jake Gary, Piper Lindeen, Lucas Gilkey, Nicholas Gresham, Joshua Thompson. All right, thank you. Welcome. We'll start over here on my left, your right. Introduce yourself and tell us who you represent, if anyone, in your position on both the bills, and give us your testimony.
Good afternoon. Thanks for your time today. My name is Elizabeth Miller. I am a resident of SD 12. Some of you may recognize me. I've spoken to many of you on this issue before. I wish I had more time to discuss the legal implications. I'm a lawyer. I wish I had more time to discuss the policy implications. I'm a political nerd. I'd love to discuss the political implications for you all that you may not be anticipating fully. There's just not time. I'm disappointed that we have to combine both bills at once. I'm against SB 3 for a variety of those reasons and more, and I'm reluctant on SB 1505. I've been coming to you all asking for you for some time to change the language in the bill, the way you speak of THC, to stop using, I think I put it before, stop using drug dealer talk and use medicine language. And I appreciate that you're doing that. I really do.
Okay. Okay, hold tight. We're going to stop the clock for a moment. Let me say, for the benefit of those in the gallery, we have 170-something witnesses remaining. We're going to hear from everyone, and folks are welcome to stay in the gallery and listen so long as there are no interruptions, no outbursts. If this continues to happen, then DPS will clear the gallery and we'll call the witnesses in one at a time. So restrain yourselves, listen to the testimony, and let's all give our attention to the witnesses. Don't clap for them, don't boo them, unless you want the gallery to be emptied and you can wait outside. Please go ahead.
So thank you for that. I've also come and spoken to you all about how I'm a patient. And so rather than talking about the legal policy, I'll focus on that because I know there are so many patients that would love to be here today, but they can't. They can't do the short notice. They can't travel. It's harder to travel. It's harder to be here. And as I've explained to many of you under oath and on TV, I am only here because I engage in what is a felony every day. Because I consume cannabis, vaporizing it, I can't smoke. I need THC to control my seizures, to control my pain, to give me an appetite, and medicine doesn't have good, Big Pharma hasn't solved that. I guess it's not a problem, a lot of people have, but it's a problem, it's a real problem. And THC serves that. I can't smoke it, I have to inhale it, and you guys I've been asking for you all to adjust the mode of consumption, and you're doing that, I appreciate that. But I need THC for those things. And this bill is not enough. It's just not enough for a lot of us. And I speak for many, many patients in each of your districts that can't be here. And I would appreciate 5-10 minutes to discuss this in more detail and explain it to you how you can improve both of these bills to not impose on patients more. But some of us are in so much pain. Maybe opioids make us nauseous, or maybe we don't want them for other reasons. Maybe we can't take, been stuffed so full of NSAIDs that our organs don't work anymore. Maybe we lived through the Vioxx thing and we know we're a little understandably reluctant to consume some of these. Maybe we don't want to take the psychiatric medications that we know have negative side effects. Maybe we've lived them and doctors are giving them without appreciating them. There are reasons that many of us find THC a much less offensive option. And I would appreciate your questions on this and your time with either any of you or your staff, although I must ask Senator Parker, ask for him since I am his constituent. But I would appreciate 5 or 10 minutes with all of you before you vote on this.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being here. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am a District 11 constituent, but it looks like Senator Middleton is out of the room right now. My name is Andrea Steele with the Banks Law Firm, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Texas Hemp Business Council. I've represented hemp businesses in Texas since its legalization. I currently serve as the Vice President of Operations of the International Cannabis Bar Association, as well as co-chair its Legislative Advisement Committee, and I consult on hemp litigation nationwide. So it's with deep expertise in this industry that I strongly oppose SB 3 as it's a legal misstep and it's going to have severe unintended consequences for Texans, our economy, and consumer safety. I understand the concerns, public safety, youth protection, and regulation. But SB 3 will make these issues worse, not better. If the goal is to prevent youth access and ensure product safety, this bill does the opposite by eliminating safety measures, fueling unregulated markets, and violating federal law. I'm going to focus on the federal law violations because there's lots of testimony about other things going on. So SB 3 is not only internally inconsistent, but it directly conflicts with President Trump's 2018 Farm Bill, violating federal preemption, interstate commerce, and due process rights. The Farm Bill expressly prohibits states from interfering with transportation and shipment of federally legal hemp. By creating 7 new jailable offenses without respecting the preemption carve-out, SB 3 violates federal law. SB 3's ban on mailing consumable hemp products, despite the U.S. Postal Service having federal authority to do so, also presents a problem. We also have a conflict preemption concern. SB 3's criminalization of all cannabinoids except for CBD and CBG, which is something that does not exist in any other state, effectively redefines federally legal hemp. This is kind of mirror to the Biogen case that was out of Arkansas, currently pending in the 8th Circuit, where the Arkansas law was struck down due to its inconstitutionality because it rescheduled hemp and made legal production impossible. SB 3's criminalization of federally legal cannabinoids also poses an irreconcilable conflict with the federal Farm Bill. The Arkansas court further ruled that the law was void for vagueness under the Due Process Clause because there were undefined terms that left businesses unable to determine compliance. There are similar issues with SB 3. Lastly, SB 3 has a fatal flaw in that there is a disconnect created between hemp plants and CBD and CBG isolate products. Texas farmers growing federally compliant hemp will not be able to ship their products under state law despite it being legal federally. It would be illegal for Texans to buy and sell Texas-made consumable hemp, and consumers will simply turn to purchasing out-of-state products online and having them mailed in the Postal Service, harming the state's economy and creating an unconstitutional barrier to interstate commerce. Returning to youth access and consumer safety. Texas already has the tools to regulate hemp safely. Misbranding, adulteration, and deceptive trade practices are well-established tools that require no new laws. What we need is funding for and a commitment to enforcement, not bans. Texas already has some of the most comprehensive hemp regulations in the nation. With the addition of age gating, more robust packaging, labeling guidelines, and buffer zones from schools, Texas has a real opportunity to lead the nation in responsible hemp regulation without destroying an entire industry.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Do we have 3 minutes to speak on both bills?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
I still have SB 1505 to speak on.
No, ma'am.
It's not 3 minutes
No, ma'am. It's 2 minutes each, but from the folks who are on both bills, we're extending the time a little bit. So go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
No,
on
I'm sorry. We'll see if we have questions for you, but we're going to go on to the next witness now. Go ahead, sir. Welcome.
Chairman, I am David Bass. I'm here to speak for SB 1505. I'm in favor of the licensees being allowed to open satellite locations. I live in Killeen near Fort Cavazos. Once each month, I have to drive to the Texas Original Dispensary in South Austin to pick up my medications. It is an hour drive and heavy traffic on I-35 to get there, so a 2-hour round trip. If Texas OG can open a satellite location in, say, Georgetown or Round Rock, that would help me get my medications and be much safer for me to drive that distance. This bill would also allow vape products. I believe vape products will be very effective for the symptoms of PTSD. PTSD symptoms can come on very strong, very fast, and unexpectedly. Vaped cannabis has an immediate positive effect. I support adding vape products to CUP. Last, this bill will bring many more Texas veterans into our legal medical cannabis program and away from potentially harmful hemp products and the illegal marijuana market. I am also in favor and support SB 3. I founded Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana in 2015. And we got PTSD added to the CUP program in 2019. When I meet a new veteran who is asking me about medical cannabis, I always recommend that the veteran enroll in the compassionate use program. I do not want our veterans using these hemp derivatives. The reason is they have no idea what they are taking, and they are not using these products under the care of a physician. In CUP, we know exactly the origin and formulation of our meds. DPS inspects and certifies CUP meds, and we use CUP meds under the care of our doctor. The hemp products are not regulated. You will hear hemp product advocates saying, let's regulate this industry, not ban it. But I will tell you, it would take millions of dollars, and you would have to hire many more state employees to properly regulate this industry. DPS is doing an excellent job regulating CUP. Let's focus our efforts there. So I believe banning these products and at the same time improving and expanding CUP is the right long-term answer for our Texas veterans. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Senator Perry.
Thank you, Major. Welcome. Introduce yourself. Go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, Senator Perry, Senator Zaffarini, Mr. Birdwell, you're a hero. I'm here on 1505 and against SB 3. My name is Kevin Hale. I'm the Libertarian Legislative Coordinator. So I'm here to show you what our platforms say about these things. Medical freedom. LP Texas supports the right of individuals to seek medical and health care of their choice. We support a free market in which government does not restrict access to care. We oppose the use of government to force a medical procedure without the individual's consent. In regards to 1505, I am happy that you moved to milliliters or milligrams versus a percentage. I think that's a step in the right direction. I do think that you should allow the doctors to pick that number, though. I think 5 milligrams is weak. On Senate Bill 3, drug policy platform from the Libertarian Party of Texas, LP Texas opposes the war on drugs, consistent with the principles of self-ownership. Consenting adults ought not be restricted from partaking in activities that harm no one else. This includes possession, consumption, and/or market transactions of substances for medical, recreational, or other purposes. Individuals seeking to provide medical treatment should not be subject to prosecution. Individuals seeking to provide treatment for addiction or offering Good Samaritan aid should not be subject to prosecution. The Libertarian Party of Texas stands firmly against this blatant government overreach. Texans built businesses under the clear and legal framework of HB 1325. They've spent 6 years investing in storefronts, payrolls, marketing, supply chains. SB 3 pulls the rug out from under them, wiping out an industry that provides livelihoods for thousands. These products are in demand by your constituents. They are not dangerous. Otherwise, how would there be 7,700 retailers across the state? Libertarians believe in a free and open, transparent market. This bill does the opposite, pushing consumers and suppliers back into the black market where the labels and ethics are unchecked. Vote no on Senate Bill 3 and support small businesses around the state and consumer choice for Texans. Thank you, gentlemen and senators.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead. Get close to the microphone so we can hear you.
Hi, Council. Thank you, Senators, and everyone here for being here today. Real quick, I just wanted to go over my experience with the hemp industry, basically, and to cover both.
And give us your name. I'm sorry. Give us your name.
Joshua Thompson. I'm a retail store owner. Also, I just work in the industry as far as the hemp goes. The bill that's going for SB 3 just up front would actually be very harmful and basically be going back in time. The most important part of that industry must be regulation and safety, of course. The best part of it actually helps people, but the issue is going to be standardized of texting, ID verifications, and then having licensed places. My phone actually locked right when it started, so that was perfect timing. Basically, I was arrested in 2019 for minor possession. I received pretrial intervention. I had a job at a lab, and I had a scholarship, which was revoked, and I lost my job, couldn't get a job for 3 years. Basically, because of that, I got into the industry. My mother, she received a diagnostic for kidney failure, and she was having severe nausea. I went up on PubMed and researched nausea and not THC, just nausea relief, and found that Delta 8 was actually very effective for that nausea relief. When I got her a legal option from a company out of Indiana, it totally dramatically changed her life. Get her the ability to eat and to take her medications. Basically from there, I was sold on the product. Prior to that, I had a friend who had a son with seizures. It was, about 10 to 12 a day down to 2 a month using CBD with THC. And I think something else that's been overlooked in this bill is that CBG and CBD are not the only non-psychoactive cannabinoids. There's CBN, CBC, all of which do have medical benefits according to Oxford Oncology journal studies on there and on PubMed. And to kind of round this out, the future of this would be, potentially, and from what studies have said, peer-reviewed from the 40s, the 60s, and the 90s, that this is something that can help a lot with cancer tumors, not only reducing it, but eliminating tumors completely. It's been very well and public known, and this is something that's been around since the 40s. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys would take more consideration into how the bill would affect the businesses and especially the people that would be, needing them. As far as the SB 15 bill, the more access that we have for these products would be the better. And having, obviously, the higher the demand, the lower the cost goes for the consumer. That would be something that'd be more beneficial as well. But doing what the other states have done is a huge mistake. Florida has only 6 licenses. Those were given to family members, which is in a lawsuit. Virginia banned it because they don't want the competition for the dispensaries when that opens up. California only banned it because hemp stores were outselling dispensaries 3-to-1 because of cost and because of access. And Colorado only banned it because they're trying to protect their market. So following them would be a huge mistake, in my opinion. It would just be awful for the industry as well, for both, and it would just monopolize it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Perry, any questions for these witnesses?
Just real quick, and I respect the fact that you've got a lot of investment in these shops, and people have done that. This was foretold back in 19, though, if anybody was listening, that where we're at today would not be acceptable. That said, the free market is an awesome enterprise in its own right, and it works really well, but a lot of times we forget with corporate or business settings that there are actually people behind that making the decision. And when the conscience of those people making the decision on what that business is going to be in loses itself, then we end up with people getting hurt from it. But my question to you specifically, are you a licensed physician?
No, sir. I do have registered nurses that work at my location. We administer IV drips, and most of them have left the medical industry because of synthetics.
Are they qualified to prescribe?
No, what we're seeing now with doctors
So
is...
what I question when I hear people talk about the municipal benefits of it, and I don't dispute that there are people that feel better from some of it because maybe the dosage was right for that person that day.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have a regulated product out there that you can point to consistently on any shelf. So when I hear owners tell me that it does all of these great medical things, and then we have a teacup, which is a licensed physician with all the science and the knowledge behind it to prescribe it, that's the distinction that's not being made here. We shouldn't be having this conversation today had 19 been done the way it was laid out. I'm just saying, you're not a licensed physician. You're not in a position of making
80% of my customers are referred to me by physicians with St. David's, Baylor, Scott & White, and also hospice nurses that are seeking alternatives. Also, VA doctors from the Cedar Park VA and the South Austin VA
What I
running
need
out
to
of
do there,
options.
Mr. Chairman, is follow up and see if that 80% of those referrals from Baker, Scott & White and other facilities are registered as licensed physicians under the TCUP program.
So if there's any other questions for the witnesses, thank you each for being here. You're excused. The chair now calls Christopher Lewis, Nicholas Gresham, Lucas Gilkey, Piper Lindeen, Jake Gary. And we are looking for Christopher Lewis, Nicholas Gresham, Lucas Gilkey, Piper Lindeen, Jake Gary. We're close. Let me call a few more names that we'll be calling on the next panel. So I'll ask the following folks to be prepared to come down. We're looking for Colton Luther, Robin Goldstein, Sean Salvaje, Jessica Latham, Dr. Robert Marks. Okay, so I'm not going to call you to testify yet, but I'm going to see is Mr. Lewis here? Is Christopher Lewis here? Okay. Is Nicholas Gresham here? Very good. And Lucas Gilkey? Very good. And Piper Lindeen? Jake Gary. Oh, very good. So we'll call Colton Luther. Colton Luther is here wishing to testify. Robin Goldstein. Sean Salvaje. Very good, very good. We'll see who gets here first. Thank you. Keep helping us out. That's great. Thank you. We're going to be looking for Jessica Latham and Robert Marks in a moment. And so we will begin this panel, and if one of the witnesses arrives, they can take that spot. And,
May I answer a question that was asked earlier before?
Well, in just a minute, I'm going to recognize you to give testimony, and you can use your time however you want to on the topics, and there may be other questions for you as well.
Okay.
And so with that, we'll go ahead and start over here and introduce yourself and give us your testimony. Welcome.
My name is Piper Lindeen. Thank you for the committee for hearing today. I am a provider, a caregiver, and I have a master's degree from University of Maryland School of Pharmacy in cannabis science and therapeutics. So I do have a lot of answers for a lot of questions that you may have. Delta 8, how it responds in the body is it binds with less affinity on the CB receptors. It's knocked off more easily. That means it doesn't make you high as the other THC, and it is shorter and it's easy to interrupt, which can be interrupted with CBD. I want to start with, I'm opposed to SB3. I support 1505. I only support 1505 because I feel like any expansion to medical cannabis benefits patients. I am opposed to SB3 because it creates barriers for patients. We create our own endocannabinoids. We have anandamide and AG2, and we produce them in our breast milk, whether or not we consume cannabis. So are those cannabinoids also included in this ban? I mean, to me, this is unrealistic. My son is a medical cannabis patient. He began having seizures. He has severe epilepsy, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. He was having 6 to 60 seizures per day, with maybe 2 or 3 seizure-free days per month. Since cannabis, he has had reprieves from those seizures for 6 to 8 months out of the year, but that requires us, so he's the second registered teacup patient in this state. The first registered patient had to leave the state. Many registered patients have left the states. That's probably why you see so much attrition in the program. It's not because they're going to, they may be going to the black market, they may be going to the hemp market, but they're also leaving the state because we have horrible access here. So my son relapses several months out of the year. We don't know why. There are more than 150 cannabinoids. It's impossible for us to know, for anyone to know without substantial cannabis science, what it takes to get him seizure-free. And so we have to go through trial and error whenever he relapses, get products from out of the state, try it, it fails, okay, let's try another one. So we're getting hemp through the Farm Bill from Oregon that qualifies within Texas right now, but it will not qualify. And I'm sorry for all of the mothers that got paraded up here before, but my son deserves a shot at life too. He didn't have a choice. He was 3 when he started having these severe seizures, and it's not fair. It's not fair for him to relapse and potentially lose his cognitive abilities, potentially lose his life. Those other kids were given a shot. My son deserves a shot at life. We need to start researching this and understanding how to treat people with this. This is why you see mixed results, because there's no focused research. There are people in Israel that are looking at cannabinoids to kill leukemia, to kill leukemia. They have combinations of 3 cannabinoids that are doing that, but they don't have names for all of the cannabinoids. That's how little we know. That's how little we know, and how little we know it's because we're not making good informed decisions as legislators, because we're not seeking out the people who know things about cannabis and asking them questions and giving them time to explain.
Thank you.
My son deserves a shot at life.
Nicholas?
SB 3 will take that away from him.
Can I make a small request before I begin? Can all the committee members be back here for these testimonies? It's pretty insulting that they left.
I wish that was possible, but
Every time we go for these meetings, when we go, when I visit your offices, I have a special needs child, and I have been doing this for 11 years. I've come to your
we hear
office.
you.
I never have met with you. I never have gotten the opportunity to talk to my own senator who chairs the Health and Human Services in 11 years. In 11 years. How do you not know?
Ma'am.
How do you not know how
Austin.
to legislate? It's
Austin.
because you don't listen.
Ma'am, I do. Would you have DPS stand up there in the next outbreak, clear the gallery? You can stay, ma'am. I appreciate where you're at. I'm not sure why they're not eligible for teacup.
No,
but
my son is on teacup.
Okay.
My son is on teacup,
Okay.
and it's complex, and he participates in teacup because I don't want teacup to go away.
And it's not.
It is not, but it could, okay?
It's not.
It doesn't mean it's effective for
And
everyone.
1505 did.
There are 156 different cannabinoids, sir. Do you know how many different combinations of medications that is? That's 7.47 times
Right.
to the
And I appreciate it. Ma'am, you can sit there, but if you don't quieten down and let the other witnesses testify, I will have to ask you to leave. and that's not what I want to do. And I welcome you to visit with me in my office. I was just fixing to tell you about your request. It is unfortunate, the time of session we are in, that every senator, 31 senators, are divided amongst 8 committees, and they're all meeting every day. And I am sorry that that does pull us away. I personally am supposed to be in a work group for finance at 2 o'clock on the jurisdictional committee subject matter that I'm supposed to be over. So I will have to leave, not because I don't want to hear your perspective, but because Senate duties, we are 31 members scattered out over 30 million people, and we have other duties besides this. So at that point, I wish it was possible that every senator could sit on every committee for full spectrum committee, but it's not possible.
Yes, sir. What would prevent that is sessions every year.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. So thank you for that. Ma'am,
All right, I'm ready.
Please contact my office. As far as the other issues you raised, I'm very accessible. I guess I miss it. And that is absolutely not true. Anybody that knows me, but that's a different subject matter. Thank you.
Good afternoon, legislators. My name is Nicholas Gresham. I'm one of the co-owners of East Texas Hemp Company, LLC, out of Anderson County, Texas. I'm a father of 3, and my 3rd child was born on February 4th of this year. She is currently in the NICU in Dallas with my wife, the other co-owner of our business. I understand this body has had a lapse of judgment due to their ignorance of the cannabis plant. Not writing an age limit into purchasing legal hemp products in House Bill 1325 shows that. If stores around this state are selling to children, it's the legislators' fault for not adding that verbiage into the bill. Myself and many other responsible retailers understood the shortfalls of this body and remained vigilant in ensuring only those at least 21 years of age and older could become clients. Not requiring standalone licensing allowed vape shops, head shops, gas stations, grocery stores, and liquor stores to put cannabis products on their shelves. These employees' ignorance of cannabis in these establishments led to consumers hearing wild things about cannabis, saying things such as Delta-8 THC isn't real THC, so they won't fail a drug test from its consumption, which is an outright lie. This misinformation harmed many Texans. Instead of ripping the carpet out from underneath a $10 billion tax revenue source, work with industry leaders like myself and many others in this place today to put some common sense regulations on the hemp industry. Trying to cram market legal THC toothpaste back into the tube will send millions of law-abiding Texans back into the black market, riddled with cartel cannabis laced with fentanyl and many other harmful toxins. Many of these consumers are service veterans and seniors across this state that tend to vote conservative. I have more than 5 doctors across East Texas that trust me with their patients' cannabis health. Don't close my doors to them. Recent polls show at least 70% of Texans want legal cannabis in this state. So the passage of Senate Bill 3 goes against the will of Texans. Put this issue on a ballot and let Texans decide. 1 minute left. Senate Bill 1505 is a slap in the face to the over 7,000 licensed hemp stores across Texas. Destroying our market and only allowing 6 new licensed teacup retailers ensures the cannabis industry in Texas is handed to the super wealthy that can afford the outrageous licensing fees. If you want to expand the teacup program, allow a minimum of 5,000 new licenses and make the fees affordable to those that make less than $500,000 a year. Also take the reins off the doctors and let them recommend patient-specific dosages. Everyone's endocannabinoid system is different, and every individual can handle various levels of THC. Cancer patients need roughly 1,000 milligrams a day to send cancer into remission. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Jake Gary, and I'm the CEO of Fresh Grown Texas and Drops of Life CBD. We are a Texas-based company. According to TDA and the USDA, we grow the most hemp here in Texas, and I'm here to speak on opposing Bill SB3. I am 100% for the regulation. I'm 100% to help the state show the structure that it needs, like I've done in the medical cannabis industry in New Mexico. I've worked with the Department of Health for over 20 years to landscape this industry to create one of the most successful blueprints in the United States. We have offered the state our resources, our time, energy, and money to do this absolutely free to ensure that both of these industries do thrive in Texas. Now, I speak on behalf of the growers in this state, the manufacturers, and the consumers. All SB3 will do is kill an industry that is thriving and take away jobs from hardworking Texans. As you can see right now, California is issuing the same ban on hemp-derived THC products, and they now have to have Homeland Security enforce this because they do not have enough manpower in their form of DSHS to ensure this. Everything that's going on in our state with human trafficking, fentanyl, and all the drug overdoses, can we really afford to have Homeland Security come and shut down hemp stores? I don't think we do. Now, I think that we could come to a common ground and work together as individuals to see a common ground here on what we're trying to establish. Preventing these products from being in Texas, the people inside of Texas that grow, manufacture, and produce aren't making the products that you're trying to ban. If you really wanted to win on both sides, then all you'd have to do is create a market that states that only Texas-made products could sell in this state, because then that bans anybody else outside of the state from manufacturing the products that you guys are trying to ban. I'm here to urge you guys, for the veterans, my nephew who has epilepsy, who's 15 years old, who depends on the hemp full spectrum gummy that I make in order not to have those seizures. If you try to isolate CBD and CBG, you can't cultivate just CBD or CBG. And as an industry expert who has bred cannabis and hemp for the last 20 years legally, successfully, I'm the one that the experts bring in to teach these doctors about the endocannabinoid system. It's funny because a lot of the medical cannabis doctors didn't even get taught about the endocannabinoid system because there wasn't even a chapter on it until the 90s. I'm the expert that they bring in to teach them how it affects the body, and I don't even have a college degree. So with that being said, I'm also for the expansion of SB 1505 for the simple fact that I also hold a cannabis application in the state as well. All I want to do is create access and good medicine for the state of Texans. We are here to work on the compliance. We are here to provide a structure, and we are here to help. My name is Jake Gary, and that's what I'm here to say today.
Next witness.
My name is Lucas Gilkey. I'm a veteran, and as my young adult, I spent a lot of time with the War on Drugs at a unit in San Diego with the United States Coast Guard. I'm here representing Sky Marketing, doing business as hometown here within the state of Texas, and we're currently involved in a lawsuit with the state of Texas. Chairman Hughes, Senators, thank you for your time. I've yet to hear an accurate number regarding what SB3 will cost the state of Texas. SB3 is a killer by design meant to destroy an industry legalized in Texas in 2019 and federally in 2018. There are two very important numbers to consider. The first is simple to calculate and is based on the state's sales and use tax rate of 6.25%. The Texas hemp industry had $4.1 billion in sales in 2024. $4.1 billion times 6.25% equals just over $256 million in state retail sales tax revenue. Keep in mind that does not include the variable local sales and use tax that will also be lost and will impact local budgets throughout the state. The second number is the unemployment cost of firing 49,000 employees in the Texas hemp industry as of 2024. The average hourly wage reflective of these 49,000 employees is $19.17 per hour. Using the Texas Workforce Commission's unemployment benefits estimator, the estimated total possible benefits per employee is $10,374 over a period of 26 weeks. $10,374 times 49,000 employees is just over $508 million that the state of Texas will be responsible for paying to law-abiding citizens left unemployed thanks to SB3. Between the lost sales tax revenue and the unemployment benefits cost, SB3 has the potential to cost the state of Texas more than $764 million. Again, $764 million in the 12 months following the implementation of SB3. Voting in support of SB3 will also mean voting to cost the state of Texas $764 million in unnecessary costs. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm also giving testimony on 1505. I'm against SB3 and 1505, just to be clear. Chairman Hughes and Senators, today this committee will hear testimony regarding SB3, which seeks to ban our federally and state legal industry, as well as SB 1505, which seeks to expand access and delivery methods of federally illegal marijuana, a Schedule I controlled substance. Expansion of the state marijuana program, which benefits a monopoly of 3 businesses, is being considered, while simultaneously this committee entertains eliminating 49,000 jobs in the hemp industry. Despite the recent narrative, the Texas hemp industry was legalized and regulated by the Texas legislature in 2019 and helps tens of thousands of adult consumers, including veterans like me. Federally illegal marijuana is not our industry, and if you want to expand on its sale and distribution, of course you are free to do so, but why must it be at the expense of the entire hemp industry? Is there some hidden motivation at work here? Why is state public policy picking winners and losers? Any of the three monopoly participants in the Teacup program could easily add compliant hemp products to their portfolio to stop their financial losses. Instead, the state is considering financially supporting a monopoly that could easily solve its own problems, and the question is why? SB 1505 does not add criminal penalties for this federally illegal Schedule I drug, but will create felons and criminals of a state and significantly a federal legal compliant hemp product. This appears on its face to be a hypocritical stance, and Texans deserve better. Thank you for your time.
No, I'm not even. No, I'm good. Ms. Linden, I just ask that you get to my office and we'll see what we can do with respect to your son in the Teacup program and make sure, I know he's in there, just if there's things in there that could be better, we're willing to hear those. As far as the others go, I really don't have any comments. I have a mom that testified today that her label is Texas products that sent my son into psychosis. 2 packages are from Hometown Heroes, but other than that,
Thank you each for your testimony. You're excused. We're going to continue public testimony, and of course, all the testimony taken in the Texas Senate is broadcast live on the internet, just like this testimony. It's all public, and it's open to the public so long as the public does not interfere with the testimony and with the proceedings going on. So we'll continue. We had previously called Colton Luther, Robin Goldstein, Sean Salvaje, and Jessica Latham. And we're going to give names to the sergeant, ask him to go out in the hall and call these names as we go. We're not testifying yet, but give us your names just for our housekeeping.
I'm Colton Luther.
Welcome.
Robin Goldstein.
Okay, you guys hold tight. We're going to get a few more. All right, the sergeants are going to bring in some more witnesses, but we will go ahead and get underway. And so Mr. Goldstein, you're on my left, your right, so we normally start there. So please introduce yourself and give us your testimony. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Robin Goldstein, and I'm a cannabis economist. I direct the Cannabis Economics Group at UC Davis, where I'm on the research faculty in the Department of Agricultural Economics. And since 2015, my work is focused on the impacts of evaluating the impacts of cannabis and hemp regulations across the country. So first, I want to make a few comments about SB3. One of the things that I've learned in my research over the years is that, interestingly, prohibiting versus legalizing cannabis, whether it's medical or recreational or hemp, it doesn't have a big impact on total use rates. That's what the statistics, that's what the data tell us. What it does have a big impact on, though, is where the cannabis comes from. And so whether cannabis comes from the legal market or the illegal market is the big determining question of policy. And so in Texas, before legal hemp arose, the 5 million or so Texans who consume cannabis regularly were getting all of their cannabis from the illegal market, all from illegal dealers. And illegal drugs are more dangerous than legal ones. That's true across industries. You know, many are untested, unsafe, unlabeled or mislabeled. They can be contaminated. And a lot of the stories we've heard and the risks are very real. And it's very important that cannabis especially be labeled with potency and that a consumer knows what they're getting in a package. That's the number one safety issue. And in addition to the safety of the products themselves, illegal drugs, illegal drug dealers, and the kind of crime syndicates behind them, bring violence and problems to peaceful communities. So these are important issues. So today, the people who have abandoned the illegal market and are moving to buying hemp from legal stores represents a big shift in Texas away from the illegal market and into an above-ground legal market. Now, it's very clear, and especially given a lot of the stories we've heard today and research I've done, that it's not regulated. The legal hemp market is not correctly regulated yet. It's barely regulated at all. There are certain safeguards in place, but for instance, there aren't age limits or other important regulations. So, but the biggest effect so far of the rise of legal hemp has actually been a big increase in public safety because so much of the product has moved out of the illegal market and into a legal one that's not yet regulated sufficiently. And so my view is that Texas needs to implement the regulations necessary to prevent large doses, to have correct labeling and testing, the kind of stuff that is in SB3, in fact. But the problem with SB3 is that its safety regulations apply to only 5% of the market, which is the CBD and CBG products, and not to the 95% of the markets, which is THC. So finally, one comment on SB 1505. To me, that's an essential step to make them, so I'm here in support of SB 1505. To me, that's an essential step to make the medical market competitive with other cannabis markets. Inhalables are in my research shows that 90% of the market is inhalables, only 10% is edibles. And so by opening inhalables to medical, it's expanding that access and coverage in a much needed way. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. We may have questions after we've heard from both witnesses. Mr. Luther, I believe, introduce yourself, give us your testimony.
Yeah, my name's Colton Luther. I'm a sixth-generation Texan from Hempstead, Texas, and I am actually against both SB3 and 1505. So I am an entrepreneur in both the agriculture section and the manufacturing section of hemp products, and I strongly oppose both SB3 and SB 1505. Not because I oppose reasonable regulation, but because these bills would eliminate a thriving legal industry, restrict consumer choice, and fuel illicit markets. A lot of what I have in here is just repeating what has been heard today, but millions of Texans, including veterans, farmers, and senior citizens, have chosen legal regulated hemp products over participation in T-Cup. For over 6 years, Texans have overwhelmingly refused T-Cup, despite it being available since 2017. Texans do not want to hand over private medical records, pay high prices, or navigate bureaucratic hurdles just to access a naturally occurring plant compound that is already legal and available through hemp-derived products. If the goal of SB3 is to protect Texans, an outright ban will have the opposite effect. And when Texas bans licensed third-party tested products, consumers don't stop buying them. They instead turn to unregulated sources. Texas law enforcement also testified that they already struggle with enforcing bans and resources, and this will do the exact same thing. Simple regulation and enforcement, not prohibition, is the sensible path forward. Never did I think in my 29 years as a Texan that I would see Texas want to follow down the path of states like California, banning legal items and promoting illegal ones. So many contradictions in these bills that as they are proposed, and the testimonies given today, I believe, from experts were weak. The VA does not approve cannabis for PTSD, yet other people testify that it does and that they're treating that explicitly. Hemp is federally legal. Marijuana is federally illegal. These law enforcement officials want less confusion and more resources, yet banning hemp would pull attention and resources from real crime and real public safety. Other mothers have testified, speaking on the fact that their adult children have made their own bad decisions, whatever consequences may come. That is a fact. I am also a fully grown adult who only tried legal THC products over the age of 21, and here I am, successful as a business owner and college educated, standing before you. I tried THC products from all markets, all over the United States, and after the age of 21, I again stand here before you, alive and well, college educated. The $8 billion that was spent, and if there is truly that much demand out there for these cannabinoids and these types of products, why was that money not spent inside of the T-Cup program? That is my question. Thank you. I'll take any questions from the committee.
And thanks for your testimony. Senators, any questions for either of these witnesses? Thank you both for being here. You're excused.
Thank you.